Good morning, everybody. On this lovely sunny morning, I welcome you to our planning committee for the 14th of October. I would like to welcome members of the planning committee, officers and members of the public in attendance at today's meeting. Welcome to members of the public and press who may be watching the meeting live on YouTube. I am Councillor Christine Ward, Chairman of the Planning Committee. Please remember that this meeting is being broadcast live and will be available for repeated viewing. Please could all councillors follow the council's ground rules for virtual meetings, which have been well circulated. In particular, please use the chat facility to indicate any request to speak, and only speak when invited to do so by me as chairman. When members need to vote on a planning application, I will call each member to vote in turn. Please express your vote verbally with for, or against, or abstain. In accordance with the government's regulations regarding virtual meetings and remote participation, all participants must be able to hear and be heard by all in attendance. When voting, I ask that all members of the Planning Committee do so in the acknowledgement that they have heard for the duration of the item and can therefore vote in accordance with the regulations. In the event of any technical problems, there will be a short adjournment to establish if the fault can be addressed. Please bear with us in these circumstances. If an individual loses connection and the meeting can practically continue with a quorum, it will do so. I will now call the name of each member of the Planning Committee and ask them to identify themselves as being in attendance at this meeting. As I previously mentioned, I am Councillor Christine Ward, Chairman of the Planning Committee. I call on Councillor Anne Bellows.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Sue Benison.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Parties.
Present, Chairman.
And posted messages of fatalities before families.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Kate Crizell. I'll come back to that. Councillor Arthur Davies.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Barry Dunning.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Alan Glass.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor David Hawkins.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Maureen Holding, who I believe has given her apologies. Councillor Christine Hopkins also has given apologies. Councillor Mahmood Kangarani.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Joe Riley.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Tony Ring.
Good morning. Present, Chairman.
Councillor Anne Sevier, I believe has given apologies. Councillor Michael Thierry. Councillor Beverly Thorne.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. And Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Present, Chairman, and good morning.
Thank you. So can I go to Democratic Services? Can you confirm the apologies? And I think there may be a couple of more that I didn't mention.
We've received apologies from Councillors Holding, Thierry, Hopkins and Sevier.
Thank you. I now ask members to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of September 2020 as a correct record, unless I see any indication to state otherwise. Then those minutes are approved. Thank you. Members have any interest to declare?
I have. Chairman. I'm a member of Fawley Parish Council, therefore on the planning committee of that, and we have an item G, Hobson Way. I haven't given any statements or comments on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm also representing the local in Taunton, and the Junction Road application obviously is in my ward, although I'm not in the planning committee and I have not discussed the matter before.
Thank you.
That's item 3H, is it? Runbridge Street.
That's right, yes.
Okay. Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Item 3F, Barbary House. I'm a member of
Sorry,
Rebecca, when you come on, we can hear background noise. Do you have a television or something on?
I don't know. Sorry, I'm in an office with somebody else at the moment. I apologise for any background. Can you hear me speak? However,
We can, but we can hear the other person louder than you.
I'm sorry about that. I'll try and speak more loudly. Item 3F. I'm a member of Hythe and Digton Parish Council, but I'm not on the planning committee.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I need to declare an interest in items 3C, 3D and 3I. I'm a member of Lymington and Pennington Town Council. I don't sit on the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. I am a member of Hythe and Digton Parish Council and a member of the Planning Committee, but I have made no comment on this application. I'm also a Hampshire County Councillor, and this application deals with a children's home and children's services under the remit of the County Council. But it's not a County Council home, it's private.
Thank you. Councillor Beverly Thorne.
Hi. Item 3G, I'm a member of the Parish Council, but I didn't take part in any of the planning decisions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Arthur Davies.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I declare an interest in 4 to 6 Runbridge Street, 3H. I'm on the Tottenham and Ealing Town Council, but I'm not a member of the Planning Committee.
Thank you. Councillor Barry Dunning.
Yes, I am declaring an interest in 3C, 3D and 3I. I am on the Lymington and Pennington Town Council, but I do not sit on the Planning Committee.
Thank you. Can I just go back to members? Do we have Kate Crizell here yet? No. Okay, thank you. I'm getting an RTS here to say that Kate Holden can't hear. Can we help her with that?
It might be worth if she leave the meeting and join again.
Obviously, she's here for the first application, the first agenda item. So we do need to make sure that we have her here.
She has just sent me an email. If you just give us a moment, I will just reply to her because obviously she can't hear.
Good morning.
Oh, hello, is that Kate?
It is. Good morning. Can people
hear me?
Yes, I can hear people now. My apologies. Some technical difficulties. But yeah, hopefully everyone can see and hear me now.
Oh, I can see you now, so that's fine. Okay.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to the first application, which is the site of Stamford Hill, Lymington, page 41 to 62 on your agenda, item number 20/10481. Could I have the members that have interest on this one, please? Councillor Barry Dunning.
Yes, I have an interest in this, and I've declared an interest.
Yes, and I do too. It's Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to the presentation. So if Stephen Bellet can give your presentation, we are ready and waiting. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members.
Good morning.
My apologies, I was on mute. Can you see the presentation on the screen?
We can, thank you.
Thank you. This is an application for 44 sheltered apartments for the elderly with associated access, mobility scooter storage, refuse bin storage, landscaping and parking spaces. This application follows an earlier application which was submitted to the council last year and was refused planning permission. The reasons for the refusal of the planning permission are in your papers. So, application site edged in red. There are 4 existing properties. Buckler's Court is the large apartment block to the north of the application site. Buckler's Mews, which I'll refer to later, is this complex of buildings here. And I would ask members to note the change in the character of the grain of development from Buckler's Court southwards. This is an aerial photograph of the site, Chairman. So you have Buckler's Court and Buckler's Mews, the planning application site edged in red. You can see the 4 individual houses that are the subject of this application. So those 4 houses would be demolished and the new apartment block built in its place. This slide shows the conservation area boundary, which is shaded in pink and edged thus. It also shows the listed buildings in the area. So here's our application site. These are the listed buildings at Highfield that was referred to previously in the report, and some of the listed buildings within the town centre. And again, Buckler's Mews is here. So our application site is right on the edge of the Lymington and Pennington conservation area. This plan shows the footprint of the existing buildings, and superimposed over that footprint is the proposed building block. And as you can see, members, the footprint is significantly larger than anything in this particular area. And Buckler's Court is, as I said, the edge of the conservation area. This shows the site layout. So we have Buckler's Court, Buckler's Mews, Concord, which is the private property to the south of the application. So this application differs from the previous application, Chairman, in as much as the access arrangements have been altered. So there is now a right turn bay within what was the original splitter island. So this was a splitter island separating the traffic coming into town from the traffic going out of town, dropping down Stanford Hill. So that's created space for a splitter island for a right turn bay, and so traffic will then right turn into the development site, and then they will be able to travel southwards and then come out to the development site and then be able to cross the road without hitting that splitter island. And that was the issue with the previous application, and hence the reason for refusal from the Highway Authority. There's car parking shown along the frontage of the site with a landscaping belt between the car parking and the pavement, and there's a large car park at the back of the site. The position of the substation, which I referred to in my report, is there, and that's Buckler's Mews, 14 and 15 Buckler's Mews, and the property Concord and Buckler's Court. So, and then Belmore Road is the property is at the rear of the site. So that's the first floor plan. The first floor plan has changed from the previous application in as much as this section of the building has now been deleted. So it is a ground floor building only with a flat roof section. Previously there was a reason for refusal because of the impact of a 3-storey building in close proximity to these private houses on Buckler's Mews. That has now been resolved, if you like, because that building is now ground floor only with a flat roof. And the agent has also shown here the distances involved in terms of balconies towards Buckler's Mews and that way as well. Second floor plan, and then a lower ground floor plan, because the building is 4-storey in parts, Chairman, because as the ground drops away, then the building increases in height. So it does create 4 stories in one part of the building, and this is the front section of the building, if you like, from Stanford Hill. These are the proposed elevations. So it's a collection of buildings joined together into one mass, with the different textures and different fenestration and roofing details, as you can see there. That's the view that you'd see from Stanford Hill. This is the view that you would see if you were standing from the south, if you were looking northwards towards the town centre, and Concord is on this side. You've got a flat roof section of building which has been introduced to actually reduce the impact on Concord, and then the building rises, and this is the 4-storey block that I was talking about. The building extends well back into the site as well, on 3 floors. And this is the next elevations. These are the elevations to Belmore Road. So this is what those residents in Belmore Road will see from their rear gardens. So again, you've got the 4-storey element on that side, the 3-storey element on this side. This is the flat roof section that I was referring to a moment ago. So what the applicants have done is they've reduced the number of units by taking out 2 of these floors, and they've rejigged the units internally. So they've actually lost 1 unit overall from the previous refusal scheme. And that's the elevation to Bucklers Court. So that's looking, if you like, south. This is a plan showing the street scene and the cross sections. So it shows the position of Bucklers Court, the housing complex that I refer to. The edge of the conservation area is in that location. And what I wanted members to see was this plan, because this is the plan that we refer to in our report as being a transition zone, if you like, between the high density and taller development blocks on the edge of and within the town centre, and then the much looser development blocks of individual single houses, 2-storey, and dropping down the hill. So what you see there in blue is the zones of the existing dwellings, and I think my next slide will show that in a bit more detail. That's the proposal as it's shown, and that one shows it in relation to what's existing on the site. So you'll see the buildings are much lower in terms of their profile. They have lots of gaps between them and lots of airspace around them. And as I said, it is this transition zone between the town centre and the conservation area, and then dropping away. This is an artist's impression that the applicants have given us. They've confirmed that it's a true impression. So this is the view that you would see looking northwards towards the town centre. So these are the 4 dwellings that we're talking about in this location. And then the next one shows it as it would appear. So, just that's a before, and that's an after shot. So the application is recommended for refusal, Chairman. There is one item of late correspondence. The applicants have provided us with an updated shadow habitat regs assessment, and that was received on the 7th of October. The reason it's on committee is because our reasons for refusal, which are set out at the end of this page, on page 58 onwards, don't exactly align with the views of the Town Council. The Town Council, for instance, recommend refusal on a number of other matters, such as highway impact, lack of car parking, and over provision of this type of accommodation, and there are a few other areas where we don't exactly align. So the reasons for refusal, however, Chairman, are on the basis that it doesn't constitute sustainable development, it's not acceptable in design terms, in terms of its bulk and mass and height and scale in this location within Lymington. It's not acceptable in terms of its impact on heritage assets such as listed buildings and conservation area. It has an impact on wildlife species within the site rather than outside the site. There is an impact on wildlife species which we're not satisfied has yet been dealt with. Reason 5 is that the development is not in accordance with the need to protect wildlife and protected areas outside the site in relation to the impact for nitrates. And reason 6 is in relation to the impact on number 14 and 15 Bucklersmuir, particularly in relation to the close proximity of the electricity substation and the car parking. Chairman, on the nitrates issue, if I may just expand on that just slightly, this is the first time the Council has considered using a scheme which is located geographically on the Isle of Wight to provide a compensatory drop in nitrates entering into the Solent. In principle, Chairman, we've not objected to that as an approach. However, it does require a detailed Section 106 agreement to be drawn up and in place. And at this stage, that agreement is not in place. And so on that basis, this is included in the reasons for refusal. So with that, Chairman, I'm open to questions. Thank you. Hello, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. Members, do you have questions for Mr. Belli, please? Well, Councillor Kangarani.
Yes, good morning. If this question is more general rather than specific, that is about the carbon footprint for such a development. Should be considered as part of the planning application if that many building going to be built on the same location. Thank you.
Jimmy, did you want me to respond to that?
Did you hear me? Sorry.
I didn't hear that question very well. I don't know if anybody else did.
Shall I try again?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. My question was in regard to the carbon footprint for such a large development. Could that be part of the planning application to consider whether this complex or concentrated building allow for the carbon footprint? Is that we should have taken into consideration?
Mr. Belli, do you want to answer that one?
Chairman, the development as it's proposed is in accordance with the latest building regulations as far as I'm aware. There are policies within our local plan that talk about sustainable development. There is nothing essentially, as far as I'm aware, that talks about carbon footprint as such, but there are policies that talk about sustainable travel, sustainable development in its wider sense, and things like electric charging points being provided. We don't have a reason for refusal on the basis of carbon footprint, however.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sue Benison.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Belli. My question is about the electricity substation. Is this a substation that's already on site, or is it a substation that will be created purely for this development?
It is a substation that will be created for the development as far as I'm aware.
So it could be situated anywhere?
Yes, and that's what I've recommended, that we actually, in the event that members were minded to approve of this, we would recommend that would be moved so that it wasn't as close to the property on Bucklersmuir.
Thank you, Mr. Belli. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. There's no more questions up there. So I have 3 public speakers. I have Miss Kate Holden representing the applicant, Mr. Don Mackenzie from Lymington Society, and Councillor Ashby from Lymington and Pennington Town Council. So first of all, can I go to Kate Holden? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Can I just check you can hear me?
We can, thank you.
Lovely. Good morning. As you'll be aware, this is a revised application which has been prepared directly to address the concerns raised by the Council in its refusal of our initial application for the site. So we're therefore naturally disappointed that your office is to continue to recommend the reasons for refusal as Mr. Belli has just run through. Fundamentally, the first reason for refusal, that the proposal does not represent sustainable development, is wholly unfounded and completely undefendable at appeal. This is a brownfield site in a central location with excellent access on foot to a range of facilities in Lymington. The planning statement sets out the social, economic and environmental benefits of the scheme, specifically highlighting the health and social benefits to residents and the wider public purse in terms of older persons' accommodation. Such benefits are accepted in numerous recent inspectors' decisions on similar cases and in national planning policy guidance. So regardless of your views on my further points, I would really urge members not to include this as a reason for refusal. Secondly, the applicant has made changes to the scale and massing of the building to address the design, heritage and residential amenity issues. Suggested reasons for refusal 2, 3 and 6 seem to ignore both the reduced height of the elevation facing Stamford Hill and the loss of one unit to the elevation facing Bucklers Court, which is significant improvements to the scheme. The fact that your officers continue to come to the same conclusions on design and heritage regardless is therefore in our view questionable. Indeed, whilst our heritage consultant assesses the scheme as having a neutral impact on the setting of the nearby conservation area and listed buildings, the council's assessment does not even stipulate the degree of harm identified, which the NPPF requires in order to weigh such a consideration in the planning balance. The remaining technical matters regarding ecology and nitrates should also not act as a barrier to development. The applicant will be required to apply to Natural England for a bat licence to commence works on site where bats have been identified. Without this licence, no works can take place. Therefore, there is simply no need to duplicate this requirement through planning. As for the nitrate mitigation, as Mr. Belli says, the applicants proposed an off-site mitigation strategy, which the LPA accepts in principle. What Mr. Belli doesn't highlight is that we have provided a fully drafted electronic copy of this Section 106 to secure this, and this could be readily signed upon a resolution to grant planning permission. I do hope you'll give due regard to the points I've raised and would urge you to come to your own conclusions on whether the suggested reasons for refusal are indeed justified in considering the scheme for approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll ask members if they have any questions, and we have Councillor Alan Glass, please.
Thank you. It took me a while to get my microphone switched on. Just a question, going back to the nitrate situation. I know that locally we have acquired a farm on the Isle of Wight for mitigation of the nitrates, but when you're building such a large development, is there nothing you can do to reduce the nitrates development, like treatment process on site?
Shall I answer that one?
You can, yes please.
Yeah, the difficulty is the applicant did propose early on an on-site mitigation strategy, which is a piece of equipment referred to as a bio bubble. That's the brand name. The problem was that the council and its consultees weren't supportive of that approach, because the concern was whilst we can then treat the amount of nitrates coming from our site directly, that ultimately, because that's then filtered through the main sewer systems, it kind of has the effect is almost lost when that water output then kind of mixes with everyone else's water in the main treatment works. So we did come up with that solution as Plan A, but that was rejected by the council.
Thank you. Yeah, in other words, we couldn't build a meaningful unit on site.
Well, not according to the consultee responses, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to ask Ms Holden, if I may, just exactly what justification her company has for building yet another monstrous great development for elderly people, when anyone who's familiar with the town will walk around and there are literally dozens of such apartments available and for sale boards that never move, not least at Butler Court next door. Now, I know that we have a growing elderly population, but surely if we have a surplus at the moment, I'm just really wondering about the methodology that's led them to believe we need such another development.
Yeah, certainly all the evidence that we've collected and that's set out in the planning statement indicates the growing and increasing need for older persons accommodation. I think particularly in locations like this, which are very sustainable and attractive to older people insofar as you've got those facilities you can walk to, you've got access to other services. I appreciate what you're saying about there may be other units sat empty, but clearly the applicant wouldn't be pursuing such a scheme if there wasn't an appetite for this kind of accommodation. And I think particularly in the current climate, I think, you know, everyone's attention is sort of turned more to health and well-being and thinking about ways we can you know, live sustainably and live healthily, and the evidence does support that growing demand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Bellows.
Yes, thank you. Kate Holden queried some of the points of refusal from our officer, and I wondered whether Stephen Belly could come in and expand on these and answer those, because it's not clear to me, you know, if this is going to be solid ground, and I'd just like to find out.
I'll go back to Stephen then. Can you answer that question, Stephen?
Chairman, we issued a decision last year which included grounds relating to sustainable development, and sustainable development doesn't just include elements such as where is the application site. Sustainable development includes a whole range of social, environmental and economic issues to consider. In terms of social issues, for instance, one of the key social issues the applicants point to is accommodation for elderly persons. That to an extent is accepted, albeit members' comments and the Town Council's comments in terms of the availability and the range of such accommodation in the town is noted. The other area of major social benefit that would be brought about in normal circumstances with a scheme of this size would be an element of affordable housing. We accept that it's difficult to provide affordable housing on site, but the applicants, because of the cost of purchasing the 4 individual properties, which are very expensive properties in Lymington, and because of the cost of doing so, it's meant that their costs in developing this site are such that they can offer no affordable housing contribution off-site either. And so that is a real negative social impact, if you like, because there is no affordable housing. So, and then the other key issue of sustainability in terms of the NPPF talks about environmental benefits, if you like, and environmental benefits are not just ecological benefits, but they are wider environmental benefits in terms of what is the impact on the local town in terms of its appearance and character. And in our view, we accept that the applicant has reduced the scheme marginally in terms of its height and one of the units at the rear, but we don't feel that it's taken on board the other reasons for refusal, which was about the impact on the town and its character. And so in environmental terms, that is another key element within the NPPF. So we stand by our reason on sustainable development. And as far as the other reasons for refusal, we have considered this scheme afresh. So we have, for instance, not included a reason for refusal on highway grounds. That was included last time. And we've not included a reason for refusal on surface water and drainage grounds. So we have reflected on the reasons for refusal, and we stand by them, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, I'm now going to move on to our next speaker, who is Mr. Don Mackenzie of Lymington Society, and he's objecting to this. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Mackenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Lymington Society is an amenity society which has been established since the 1960s, and we examine and take an interest in planning applications and other civic matters that affect the built environment in the town. The Society does very much not take the NIMBY view that all development is to be opposed, and we realise that more homes are very much needed, especially affordable homes, which is important in this context. We were instrumental in helping design the parameters for the Lymington Local Distinctiveness Supplementary Planning Document, which has brought major benefits in terms of helping to prevent unsuitable developments being approved. And this has been confirmed when applications have subsequently gone to appeal. The Society feels that this is extremely important, that the protection of the quality of the built environment that this SDP has brought to the town is not undermined by applications being approved which are contrary to the spirit of this very important guidance. Many of the major roads leading into the Georgian heart of the town of Lymington constitute what the Society has described as the green arteries of the town. Family homes in attractive plots with trees and gardens are the norm, and this is the essence of the local distinctiveness that we're trying to preserve. In every possible way, this application is in total contradiction to everything that is set out in the Lymington Local Distinctiveness Guidance, and if approved, would drive a coach and horses through this guidance and inevitably lead to blocks of flats creeping along all the major roads in the town, just has been seen in other communities to their great detriment. In this particular case, the damage to the conservation area and its distinctiveness is all the greater because of the nearness of the listed buildings nearby on the other side of the road and the closeness of the proposals to the Georgian town centre. As has been pointed out by the officers, this is a massive building which has only been modified to a very minor degree from the previous application. If the usual planning description used by officers that this proposal is considered to be unsympathetic in terms of overall design, site layout, mass, bulk and height are ever applied to any development, it surely applies to this one. There are of course many other reasons why this is an absolutely unsuitable development. No affordable homes, no real economic benefits for the town, no real need for this type of development in Lymington, which already has more than its fair share, much of which is empty. Dangerous traffic access, nitrate problems not solved, contrary to habitat regulations, loss of amenity for neighbours. In view of these concerns and problems with this development, the Society respectfully requests that the Planning Committee turn this application down. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions? Nobody's indicating. So I will go on to Councillor Ashby from Lymington and Pennington Town Council. Again,
thank you, Madam Chairman.
Also have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can be very brief because much of our objections have already been stated by both the planning officer and Lymington Society. We wholeheartedly support those objections. We are, as a town council, we discussed this at length on 2 occasions. We are absolutely crystal clear that it will have a detrimental impact across the board, and we are vehemently opposed to it. For the sake of brevity, our reasons are stated on page 44 of your agenda, and simply put, we really recommend refusal. It's just a massive impact on the town character. Is out of keeping, is not needed. We just couldn't disagree with this proposal further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions, members? Then we'll go into debate. We are now in debate. Nobody's coming up on my RTS, members. We are in debate.
I can pop in if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, you're coming up now, Councillor Bennison.
Thank you, Chairman. Shall I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, I was just holding back to see if the local ward councillors wanted to say something first. Okay, from my point of view, I appreciate that this application has reduced the development slightly, but in my view, not enough. 44 sheltered apartments on this one site is akin to a small village, if I can put it that way. For me, I would like to have seen some gaps in the development. I mean, I'm looking at the plans now. It's a long amount of brick all along the road frontage. I'm also concerned with the fact that it extends so far back into the site. I'm sure the applicant could come up with a slightly more broken up plan and still achieve what they want to do on the site. I also have concerns about a sewage system. We hear that the applicant has said they can't put one on site, but we are told that these modern Cal Jester type systems are able to deal with sewerage on large developments, and that the adverts say that the water that comes from is clean enough to drink. So I would have thought that some on-site provision could have been provided. So for me, Chairman, I think that I would come down on the side of the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kangarani.
Yes. Yes, we see another development which encourage people from the outside the forest to retire in the forest, which means they put a lot of pressure on the social services and also amenities. The property will be occupied who are not economically productive, and also that means it more pressure on the employment in town. And I think on that basis, I think it's not justified even economically for the local area. I would refuse that proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Sorry. Yes, I don't know if I'm being premature, but I would like to recommend refusal for all the reasons that we've heard and Mr. Belli has set out. And I also would very much support what Councillor Kangarani has just said. We need, if we're going to have more and more and more old people in the town, we actually need affordable housing to allow those people to live. So I'm recommending refusal, please.
I would second that.
That was who? Councillor Glass. Councillor Barry Dunning.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Butlers Court and Butlers Mews to the east of this proposal have many flats for sale. All over Livingston we have flats for sale and apartments. We do not need any more. We need affordable housing for the staff who care for the elderly residents in our area. I support the Livingston and Pennington Town Council in objecting to this development. There is insufficient demand for this type of accommodation. Livingston is already full of this style of house development. The impact on the town will be huge, and we don't want to become a retirement centre for the south of England. I ask that we turn this application down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Anne Bellows.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a nice looking complex, but it's not for that location, and I have to support the officer's recommendations for all their stated reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alan Glass, did you need to add anything more?
Well, just one point, and it's something I don't think has really been considered. Why are we demolishing these old good-looking houses? They're in character, they look serviceable. Why can't they be modified to whatever we want? They're a lot cheaper and a lot more pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any more speakers on there, so I think we'll come to the debate, and we'll go back to the public speakers who will have no, there's nobody else, 1 minute each. So Miss Kate Holden, you have another 1 minute to speak.
Thank you. Just picking up first on the drainage point, if I may. As I've already stressed, the applicant did come up with an on-site solution to deal with the nitrates. It's not that there's an issue dealing with sewage or drainage in any other way. This is to do with ecological impacts of nitrates that come out of everyone's foul water supply. We did offer an on-site solution and it was rejected. Further, to pick up on the sort of general sustainability issues, I should stress that there are huge social and economic benefits arising from older people living in accommodations such as this. And those are really to do with the fact that people in these sorts of accommodations are provided with supported care, nursing provision, and so on and so forth. And finally, just to touch on the affordability, the council has accepted the applicant's viability report, and has very much accepted that affordable housing isn't a viable option on this site. So I wouldn't really like to
You have had your 1 minute. Thank you very much. Mr. Mackenzie, 1 minute, please. Mr. Mackenzie, are you there?
Sorry.
You have 1 minute.
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Sorry, I was muted. I would like to concur with the comments made by the town councillors and others that this is a totally unsuitable development. And I think I'd just like to re-emphasise again that the local distinctiveness supplementary planning guidance has been designed to try and keep the character of the area, and for family homes in nice plots with trees and gardens, that is the character of the area. No matter what you do to that development, whether you put it in little bits, you have little setback bits, you have slightly different height bits, it is a massive, massive change to the character of the area and can't possibly be defended. And as I said, if in fact this is approved, then what's to stop another one going down the road again and another one after that? Because it will definitely set a precedent. Butlers Court was built at a time when we didn't have the protection of the supplementary planning guidance, and now that we've got it, it mustn't be undermined, otherwise it really will be open season on all the roads into Lymington. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ashby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pick up on Councillor Glass's comments about the existing houses. One of the other points that houses of every quality to supply the food chain, to allow people to move up and down as necessary. We don't have that many large family houses available if they keep getting eroded at the rate they are. So we would oppose the erosion of the larger houses anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for your contribution. Members, we will now go to the vote, and I will just ask before we vote if any member had a connection problem. I trust that they will let me know. I don't think we've had any connection problems. So I will now go to the vote, and we had a proposal to accept the recommendation, which is to refuse, proposed by Councillor Anne Corbridge and seconded by Councillor Alan Glass. So we are voting for refusal. Councillor Anne Bellows.
For.
Councillor Sue Benison.
For.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
For.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
For.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
For.
Councillor, Kate Cressell we haven't got. Councillor Arthur Davies.
For.
Councillor Barry Dunning.
A definite for.
Councillor Alan Glass.
For.
Councillor David Hawkins.
For.
Councillor, she's not here. Councillor Kangarani.
For.
Councillor Joe Riley.
For.
Councillor Tony Ring.
For.
Councillor Michael Thierry, we still don't have. Councillor Beverly Thorne.
For.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
For.
I will also vote for, so that is unanimous. Could you tell us that that's the vote recorded, please, Democratic Services?
Yeah, I can confirm it's unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. That concludes that item. So we'll now go on to 3D, which is 1 Melbury Close, Lymington, application number 20/10601, and that is to be found on pages 63 to 74 on your agenda. Again, could I go over to Stephen Berli for your presentation? Thank you. Oh, first of all, I know there are some declarations on this one of interest. That would be Barry Dunning and Anne Corbridge again, I guess.
Yes, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to Stephen Berli then, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you see my screen, Chairman?
We can, thank you.
This is an application for a change of use of a 3-bedroomed dwelling house to letting rooms in association with the adjacent number 8 Highfield Road bed and breakfast. The applicants are Aquashore Limited. So the application site edged in red. This is number 1, Melbury Close. Number 2, directly to the north. St Anne's Gardens are directly to the west. Highfield, that we referred to a moment ago in terms of the listed buildings, are these properties. The applicant's other property is number 8, which is directly to the east of the site and has a party boundary with the application site. Number 8 also extends further to the north in terms of its garden. Here we have a photograph of the site showing the general arrangements. Apologies, the site is actually not as arrowed there. The site is number 1. So the conservation area is shown in a hatched zone, as you can see from there. So the conservation area boundary runs directly to the along the boundary of the application site. It slightly overlaps it in this location, Chairman, but essentially number 1 and number 2 were planned to be outside the conservation area, albeit there's a slight overlap in that location. The applicant's property is within the conservation area, and you can see the listed buildings. So this is the copy of the site red line and blue line plan. So you can see, Chairman, the application site and the applicant's property at Highfield number 8 is already operating as a mixed use in terms of bed and breakfast with the applicants occupying the property as well, so there's live-in accommodation for manager within that property. This proposal differs from that in as much as it is for bed and breakfast, but there is no live-in manager accommodation. This plan also shows the arrangements for car parking. So the access to number 1 is in this location. There's an existing driveway access. The access to number 2 is around the back into Melbury Close. So this is the access into number 1. There are what's shown there to be 6 car parking spaces, 2 of which are in a tandem formation, and I'll come to that in a moment. Number 8 has its own car parking at the front there for the established bed and breakfast business. This is a copy of a plan that was included in the approval for the number 8, and it's been referred to by one of the objectors as being creating an element of conflict. If planning permission was to be granted for number 1, Melbury Close, then it would conflict with the landscaping arrangements for number 8. Officers do not share that view. There is a common boundary, and the proposal really is to allow access from any patrons using number 1 to directly access number 8 to enjoy the grounds, and also to use the facilities within number 8 for breakfasting purposes, because there is a large breakfast dining area within the property in number 8. So this shows the general arrangements and the relationship, if you like, between the 2 properties. So in terms of the plans, Chairman, there are some changes to the building itself. There are no changes to the footprint of the building, but there are some changes in terms of windows and doors to the building. So this is the existing front elevation of the building, that's the rear elevation, and the two side elevations. This side elevation with a little conservatory extension shown on the plan as a sunroom. That would be probably some element of communal use potentially for that. This is the way in which the property is laid out at the moment as a standard dwelling house. So you have a lounge and dining room, a kitchen and hallway with an integral garage, and then 3 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs. So that's the existing arrangements. Note, Chairman, there's no window in that front elevation view. That's one of the main changes that's been referred to. So this is the proposed elevation. So there's a change in terms of a window being introduced into the front elevation of the property, serving bedroom 3, and then some changes to the rear elevation as well in terms of the door and window there. A change in this side elevation view facing one of the objectors' properties, but that's with an obscure glass window into an ensuite, which is in that location. So the arrangements now, Chairman, are that instead of it being laid out as a standard family dwelling, there are now introduced 3 double bedrooms on the ground floor, all with en suites, the garage to be converted into a storage facility, the sunroom to stay as it was, but with accommodation with an occupant, the user of this bedroom 6 being able to access that sunroom and then access into the garden. So that's being incorporated, if you like, into that bedroom accommodation. And then upstairs, the bedroom accommodation then shows it as 3 bedrooms set out with each with an ensuite. It does show a staff toilet, but as I said, there's no live-in staff as far as we're aware. So there's some changes to the way in which the dwelling looks, but fundamentally there's no change to the footprint of the building. That's the existing front elevation, so the new window would go in there and that would face across the road towards another one of the objectors' properties. That's showing the integral garage that would be converted into a store. So this is the existing access which would be used to access the yard area in front of the dwelling house. Another one showing the relationship with number 2, and again, Chairman, there was one window proposed on this first floor elevation facing number 2, but that would be in obscure glass and serving an ensuite. So this shows the relationship with the 2 properties. So here we have the application site with the sun lounge that I was referring to a moment ago. So bedroom accommodation will be provided upstairs and downstairs. And this is the relationship with the applicant's property at number 8. So the applicant's property at number 8 has a very long side garden as well as a small rear garden. And that side garden is conterminous with the property, the application site. This is a wider view showing the 2 properties in the street context with number 2. So there's number 1, the application site number 8. There are double yellow lines as well, Chairman, that you should note in this location. So it's not possible to park on the public highway in this location. Another one showing the property number 8 with its long side garden with a pedestrian access gates, and then the application site, and there's number 2. There are no additional windows at first floor level in this location, so the increase in overlooking, there's no increase in overlooking essentially because those windows exist at the moment. That's a wider shot showing the relationship of the 2 sites, shows a hedgerow and trees all to be retained. Car parking on street in this location because there is no double yellow lines. The access road is slightly before you get to that batch of car parking. Double yellow lines wrap around the corner, and then further along there are restrictions in terms of parking restrictions in terms of how long you can stay there. So as you see, the area is characterized, if you like, by wide sweeping roads. This is the application site. The window that is to be installed in this first floor elevation has been objected to by properties that live over the road, but I'm sure you'll be able to see, members, that the distances involved there are quite considerable, so we could not issue a refusal reason on those grounds. And then this is looking further towards the number 8, so this is going round the corner, and again from around the corner from number 2. And another shot showing the application site. some on-street parking is happening there. Technically, it's contrary to the highway code because it's parked directly opposite a junction, but there are no double yellow lines as far as I'm aware in that location. This is the access into the site. And then if I show you again the plan showing the layout, the arrangements. This was a plan that, forgive me, Chairman, this is not an application that I dealt with. I'm covering for a colleague who was absent from the office today. But it did occur to me that this plan shows 6 car parking spaces, 2 of which are in tandem formation. And bear in mind, this is not family accommodation that's being proposed, where you could share car parking, and that would be quite easy to do. This is a business use now. And so I did suggest to the applicant that the 2 tandem parking spaces there might be difficult to manage, and the applicant has now submitted, quite late, but he has submitted a letter to say the following. He says, further to our discussion, I've clarified the parking with the owners as discussed. That's the owners of number 8. To avoid the double bank parking shown on this plan, it's agreed that the 6th space can be accommodated at number 8 if required, should there be 100% occupancy of number 1 Melbury and all having cars. The applicant, Mr. Godfrey, points out that there's room for at least 11 cars at number 8 Highfield, but not all visitors have cars, and some arrive by train or ferry from the Isle of Wight. I propose to send you a revised plan of the parking showing 5 spaces at number 1 Melbury and the 6th in front of number 8 Highfield. Once the use is up and running, the owner will manage the parking as guests arrive, whether by car or other means. So it's very much intended that this business is operated in conjunction with the applicant's own business at number 8. So we've had a number of concerns raised with this application, and it is on the agenda because the Town Council have recommended the application for refusal, notwithstanding the concerns raised and the considerations on highway safety and residential amenity, and we have no reasons for refusal from the Highway Authority. Officers consider that this is a commercial use. It does bring economic benefit to the area. In terms of the impact on adjoining properties, the officer recommendation takes into account that there would be very little change from perhaps what might be considered an extended family living in this property with multiple cars and significant use of the rear garden area. So this economic use is not considered to be so great a change as to warrant a refusal. So the recommendation is for approval. Chairman, I would suggest that if members are minded to approve the application, that the decision is held and that delegated powers are given to the Chief Planning Officer to issue a planning permission subject to the receipt of the revised plan showing 5 car parking spaces in this location, with the additional car parking space being added to the quantum of number 8. So with that caveat, Chairman, the recommendation is for approval subject to those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belli. So questions, please. I have Councillor Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't know if this strictly applies, but as this is going to be a B&B development, do these properties both meet the requirements for wheelchair access for B&B type properties?
Normally speaking, Chairman, they would have to meet Part M of the building regulations. I'm not aware that they don't, but that's something that would have to be considered in due course. I think Part M also suggests that it's a proportionate use of access availability to commercial properties. There is no lift, for instance, with this property. That said, there are 3 bedrooms available on the ground floor, all with level access as far as I'm aware. So it's a proportionate consideration of the needs for people with other needs. And I think that there's no sustainable grounds to refuse the application for those reasons.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor David Hawkins.
Yes, seeing as it's going to be a B&B, I would imagine we'd use more energy. Is there any green energy proposed for this site?
Chairman, I would say that that is a leap to say that it would use more energy because, for instance, if it's bed and breakfast, then it's likely that the people who are in those properties will not be there all day. They will be out and about enjoying Lymington and what it has to offer rather than be sitting in their rooms using electricity and the like. So it is a leap to say that, so I don't agree with that. The applicants also can make available electric charging points as well. So I think it's as green as it can be, Chairman, and I don't consider that there is actually any evidence to show that the carbon footprint of this new use would be any greater than what's there at the moment.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sue Benison.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is with regard to the elevation at number 1, which faces number 2. I'm looking at the plans, and the existing shows a 2-pane window on that elevation, which disappears on the proposed. I think that's correct, with a single pane further to the right of that elevation. So that could be said to be a reduction in window, as well as I believe you said it's going to be obscure glazing. Am I correct with that statement?
Yes, you are, because if you look at the first floor plan as proposed, there is only one window on that side elevation, and that's the window into the ensuite, because the current first floor plan has a side bedroom window because there is no window on the front, and I'm not sure why there was no window planned for the front of that property, but the window is on the side looking at number 2, which was rather an odd arrangement when this house was built, I would suggest. So that window is taken out, and the new window now is serving an ensuite.
Okay, and my second question, if I may, you referred to the boundary between the two properties. I think I read in there that there is going to be an access between the two, but it would be pedestrian only. Is that still the same?
That is correct, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Corbridge.
Thank you. 2 questions, if I may. The link path or pedestrian access between the 2 buildings, is it intended to be covered in any way?
No, it's not, and that could constitute a need for planning permission because it would be a commercial element of floor space, covered floor space, so it would need permission, and there's nothing shown on the plans.
Okay, thank you very much. The other question was, I know this area well, and I certainly do have a concern about the increase in traffic volumes pouring out from number 1 Melbury Close, because this is a very dangerous corner with very little visibility around it. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
All I would say, Chairman, is that my colleague has consulted with the Highway Authority, and the Highway Authority will have seen the plans and will know the area, but they've not any objection. So I've no sustainable grounds or evidence to show that there are any objections to this from a highway safety point of view.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Can I just one final thing, and you members need to be aware that there is no pavement on this corner either. So whereas presumably most of the going to and fro from one building to the next is going to be internally, i.e. on the path that link them up, there is no pavement on this road, which is quite dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kangarani.
My question regarding the fire safety now become the commercial property. You didn't touch on the fire safety. Could you just
Chairman, these are matters that will be dealt with under the building regulations, so it's not a planning issue.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, I'll go to the speakers. I have Mr. Bob Hole from the planning for the planning agent. Mr. Robert Podiford is an objector, and Councillor Ashby again for Lymington and Pennington. So I'll go to Mr. Bob Hole, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Thank you. On behalf of Mr. Godfrey, the proprietor and owner of the guest house at number 8, we welcome the officer's recommendation of approval subject to the required section 106 undertaking and pre-commencement conditions. 8 Highfield has operated since May 2019 and is a very highly rated for B&B accommodation in Lymington. Many establishments have closed, leaving just 2 hotels in the high street. 1 Melbury Close sits alongside the current guest house and would provide an additional 6 bedrooms. The change of use falls entirely within adopted policies for improved serviced visitor accommodation, recognising the value to the local economy, particularly whilst many more people are taking holidays and breaks within the UK. Very few changes are made to the appearance of the building, as Mr. Bella has pointed out, and there's no conservation objections. A number of residents raised concerns about parking and amenity. With regard to the first of these, and following the discussion with Mr. Bella on Monday, I submitted a draft of a revised parking plan showing 5 spaces at the front of 1 Melbury Close, and the 6th, if required, within the main forecourt of 8 Highfield, where additional space is available. There is space for at least 11 vehicles. Not all guests arrive by car. Whilst the applicant clearly hopes the extra rooms would be well used, occupancy throughout the year is certainly not going to be 100%. The owner will manage the parking across the 2 sites as required. A detailed parking and landscaping plan is also required by condition 3. On many occasions when number 8 is full, the car park is half empty. On the wider issue of residential amenity, the minor changes to the building will have no impact in terms of overlooking or loss of privacy. The boundary to 2 Melbury Close is well established and needs no further improvement. Occupation by visitors will be typical arising from a B&B use. Arrivals tend to be late afternoon or evening and departures the next morning. As the planning officer points out, occupation of the house by a large family on a full-time basis could generate more activity, day-to-day comings and goings, and much more intensive use of the garden. Additional concerns regarding loss of a house and no requirement for extra B&B are not relevant to this application. Policies don't prevent the change of use or loss of residential accommodation, and the commercial viability is a matter for the intended proprietor. The 2 premises will be run in conjunction with each other. I urge members to accept the recommendation. The use will not have adverse impacts, and the objector's preference to the house for it to remain is not a justification of refusal where no planning grounds to do so exist. No problems have arisen with the use of 8 Highfield, and none can be expected. The use is
Thank you, Mr. Bob Hole. You have had your 3 minutes. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hole? In that case, we'll go to the next speaker who's objecting, and that's Mrs. Puddifoot, please.
Christine, you missed my RTS, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I can see it now.
All right, I was a bit late. I just wanted to comment really on what Mr. Hull just said about the fact that this property could be used by a family who would just have just as much toing and froing and cars and so on. I query that because there are going to be 6 bedrooms here, and 6 bedrooms may well have 12 occupants, and I doubt very much whether there would be 6 cars there normally. So I think that's stretching it a little bit. Just a comment anyway.
Thank you very much. So we'll then go back to Mrs. Puddifoot. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I represent the residents of various properties within Melbury Close and St Anne's Gardens which are directly affected and who object to this application. Parking. The parking is not realistic for 6 cars to be on site. The drawing indicates cars being squeezed in between the boundary fence and the frontage of the property and double parked. The case officer's report regarding car movement is not correct. Cars will either be reversing into the property by stopping on the highway first or by reversing out of the property and onto the highway. None of these are either safe practices with a close proximity of the bend, with the blind bend, and the ever-present on-street parked cars adjacent on Southern Road. The only conclusion here is that the proposal will prejudice road safety and inconvenience traffic flow. Amenity. There is a clear conflict in relationship between labouring properties with the view of loss of privacy and amenity together with inappropriate development of a garden. We disagree with the case officer stating that there is no difference between usage of a family home and the proposed letting rooms. As a family home, you would expect maybe 5 people using the outside space and generally coming and going as one unit. Letting rooms would introduce the possibility of 12 people outside using the property in pairs, meaning 6 units of people coming and going independently of one another right next to a family home. The two situations are not comparable in use of profiles. Tourism. Whilst the proposal on spec appears to satisfy the desire to increase the amount of serviced accommodation in the town, the reality is that the separated accommodation from the principal property means the quality of tourism offered is not increased as required by the policy CS19 of the local plan. The local community. The case officer notes that there is no reason for its use as a B&B to erode the community spirit. However, this is not a B&B. It is a dormitory with no kitchen or living area inside. Furthermore, conspicuous motions have been made to the owner of 2 Melbury Close from the owner of 1 Melbury Close, 8 Highfield, in an antisocial fashion regarding the future procurement of the property. This behaviour already forces the previous owner to move. Whilst it is no doubt outside the remit of the planning committee to factor in circumstantial evidence of future intent, it is a real concern of the community that development of 1 Melbury Close will undoubtedly lead to further development of 2 Melbury Close. We all love living within an area which has such a strong community spirit, and allowing commercial development such as this with no tangible benefit to the town will break down the priceless community feel and welfare we're all currently benefiting from. And this is just on our lives and also our mental well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? Nothing's coming up at the moment. So I will go now then to Councillor Ashby from Lymington and Pennington Town Council. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Town Council doesn't approve of this. We think that it is a creeping commercialisation of that area. We all understand and accept what a general B&B is, and nobody minds that in their local area. However, what you're doing is that you're taking a 7-bedroom, which is already a large B&B, and turning it into a 13-room mini hotel. This is going to really increase the commercial activity and nature of the area, much to the detriment of the local community, which, as you've heard, is already a very tight-knit and happy one. You're going to have this creeping commercialisation into there, and we are also extremely concerned about the bend. The planning officer referred to it as a wide sweeping bend. It's not. It's a horrible, horrible, nasty little corner, especially when taken into junction to the entrance into Highfield itself. There are lots and lots of different parking and visibility issues, and as Mayor Corbridge mentioned, it also the access into the property does require reversing at least in or out, and represents a real traffic risk. If you proceed with this application, I'm sure you can expect accidents. We strongly recommend you reject it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, again, do you have any more questions? Then I will move to debate. We are now in debate. I don't know. Oh, right, you're coming up now. Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Yeah, again, I might be being a bit previous here, but I am actually going to recommend refusal for this application in support of the town council's view that additional car parking and movements will adversely affect the residential amenity.
Okay, Councillor Corbridge, can I just stop you there? I'll come back to you after we've had some other people speak, okay? So I'll bear that in mind, but I'll let other people speak first.
Thank you.
Councillor Sue Bennison.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Again, I intended holding back, but nobody seemed to be coming forward, so I pressed the button. Where do I start with this? Let's start with the parking. County have not raised any objection. I think the parking has been explained to us that this could be shared with number 8, that they could accommodate enough parking on site and in conjunction with number 8 to service the 6 rooms. This is going to be, people that are going to use this are going to just come, lay their head overnight, and then the next day go off and explore the wonderful forest that they've come down to see. So I can't see that there's going to be an awful lot of use of the garden by the residents, and in fact it's bed 6 that has actually got direct use into the garden, but I can't see that there's going to be any huge noise and disturbance by the use of the garden. The changes to the property are quite minimal, to the degree that if this were to fail, and who knows in these times whether these start-up businesses are going to succeed or not, this could quite easily go back to a domestic house. So the proposals to use this building in a different guise do not stop it being used as a private house again at some stage in the future, if that were to be the case. So for me, I think I am coming down on the side of the officers on this one, but remain open to hear what others have to say at this moment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ring.
Thank you, Chair. I find myself agreeing entirely with Councillor Corbridge. I think the volume of movements in the area will be immensely greater than would be the case if it were remaining in private hands. And unlike the officers, I don't agree that the road network is sufficient to cope with it. I think we're opening it to a lot of unhappy residents in the area, and I will support both the parish and Councillor Corbridge.
Thank you. Councillor Barry Dunning.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As much as I don't like the development due to the access and the traffic and the parking concerns, we do need more B&B accommodation in Lymington. And I can't see any real planning reasons for refusal. Perhaps you can, in this discussion, tell me what the planning reasons for refusal would be. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Claire Upton Brown.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just really coming in to comment on the suggested direction for refusal in terms of parking, inadequate parking and highway safety issues. I think at this point it's worth just reminding members that you have no evidence of there being a highway safety issue, and your technical advisors, both in the context of the County Council Highway Authority and your planning officers, have confirmed in the report and presentation that there are no highway safety issues. So if that was put forward and sustained as a reason for refusal, you would be doing that on the basis there is no evidence of that. In terms of parking, the presenting officer, Stephen, has confirmed to you that there will be a slightly different parking arrangement. However, you have got a forecourt that scales off at over 20 metres. So using a standard measure for a vehicle parking space, which is 3 metres by 6, and then manoeuvring distance between vehicles of 6 metres, there is sufficient room to provide a parking layout that works. So again, the parking issue is one that is and can be addressed through the planning permission and suggested conditions. Thank you, Chair. I hope that's helpful to the committee.
Thank you very much. I can't see any more people that want to speak in the debate. So I will go back to our public speakers and give them a minute each. So,
Chairman, there's no motion at the moment.
sorry. Yeah, sorry, I need to go back to Councillor Corbett. Are you still wanting to reverse this recommendation?
Yes, I am, please. And just a comment before I do that, and just in terms of what Claire Upton Brown was saying, I absolutely understand that Hampshire may think there are no traffic problems. I walk that way at least weekly, and I can tell you it's a dangerous corner. So I am going to recommend refusal. And the basis for my refusal is that additional car parking and movements will adversely affect the residential amenity, and it's an inappropriate change of use for this property.
Madam Chairman, I would like to second that. That's Barry Dunning.
Barry. Thank you. We'll now go back to the speakers. First of all, you have 1 minute, Mr. Bob Hole.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me just nail this parking point. As I pointed out, there is room for 11 cars in the forecourt of number 8, as well as 5 which we're now proposing. Some members seem to think that this building will be occupied by 12 people day in, day out throughout the year. That simply won't be the case. The parking will be properly managed by the proprietor, who will make sure that it works. If there was a family living there with 3 or 4 cars, they would be there all the time. It is important, to consider the economic benefits to the town. This is not going to be an Airbnb party house type. There's a pressing need, and the planning and economic merits of this application should not be lightly set aside based on the concerns of residents, who frankly just don't want to see any change and would prefer it much to remain as a house. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Puddifoot, you have 1 minute. Mrs. Puddifoot, are you still with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much. I think it's essential that we also keep and look at the fact that we need to keep residential properties in this area. We need to maintain residential areas and keep that going. Green spaces and garden spaces is also a way of looking at the property. With regards to parking, I'd like to make sure that everyone is remembering how big the average car is. And this is a property that was designed for, 3 people, 4 people, maybe 5 people living in it. And now we're going to convert it into a 6-bedroom house without a living room and without a kitchen. So think about the cars that are going in there. And like we've said before, backing out and moving on to Southern Road. I think that people should be also aware that 8 Highfield has always been a commercial property, and that aesthetically it's very pleasing for the area. But 1 Melbury Close is part of a development of only 7 properties, and it is in a residential area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ashby, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we can accept Mr. Hull's car parking. The number 8 will be the principal car park, and 1 Melbury Close will be the overflow car park in essence, but it still doesn't detract from the reversing in and out. We also would like to take issue with Miss Upton Brown's assertion that it is a safe corner and highways are satisfied. We were asked at by Mrs. Upton Brown to make sure that we represent the local nature of this area, and we wanted to give our local knowledge. And our local knowledge is that it is a very dangerous corner. I go round it every now and then, at least a couple of times a month, and it's terrifying. And anything that adds to that is not acceptable.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, before we go to the vote, I want to bring in Stephen Belli again.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to clarify the recommendation or the resolution from the member, because I think the member was conflating the issue of highway safety with residential amenity. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Does the member want to have one reason for refusal or two? Because the two are separate, if you like.
I think it's two actually. If we're going to need to separate it, because I think that it's the movements rather than the car parking that I'm concerned about. I don't know if that makes a difference. Maybe you could clarify that for me.
Chairman, Councillor Ashby has just commented that he says that the reversing out onto that road is dangerous and contrary to highway safety, and that is a reason in its own right. Through the debate, there's been other discussions about the impact of a commercial property and the impact that has on residential amenity, which is a wider element, if you like, in terms of the enjoyment of individual properties. So I just want to tease out whether the member wants to include a residential amenity reason or just simply the reason based on highway safety.
No, I'll go for the whole lot. And also the inappropriate change of use for the property. So that is, as I said, additional car parking and movements adversely affect the residential amenity and inappropriate change of use for the property.
Thank you. In that case, members, we'll now go to the vote. So we've had a proposal to change the recommendation to the refusal by Councillor Anne Corbridge and seconded by Councillor Dunning. So we are voting on this one for refusal. So for, against or abstain. So Anne Bellows, please.
For.
Councillor Sue Bennison.
Against.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
For.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Against.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
For.
Councillor Kate Crizell we don't have with us. Councillor Arthur Davis.
Against.
Councillor Barry Dunning.
For.
Councillor Alan Glass.
For.
Councillor David Hawkins.
For.
Councillor Kangarani.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Joe Riley.
Against.
Councillor Tony Ring.
For.
Councillor Beverly Thorne.
Against.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Against.
And my own vote is against. I think I'm going to have a casting vote. Is that right, Democratic Services?
Yes, I've got 7 votes for, 7 votes against and 1 abstention.
Then I'll go against. So that motion has been lost. Can you clarify that?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So we would need a new motion.
Yes,
Chairman, would you like me to propose that we go with officer's recommendation to grant this application?
Thank you, Councillor Bennison. Can I have a seconder?
Yes, I second that. Councillor Davis.
Davis, okay. And Mr. Belli, can you confirm the recommendation now, because we have it's slightly changed, hasn't it?
Yes, Chairman, I can. The recommendation is still subject to the 106 agreement that's set out on your papers on page 70. But in terms of the approved plans, what I'm suggesting, Chairman, is that we accept the applicant's agent's offer to amend the car parking so that there are 5 car parking spaces within the application site and the 6 spaces shown within number 8's property. So it's on that basis that we're expecting an amended plan to deal with car parking. So the location and site plan that's listed under condition 2 would change to a new location and site plan. So that could be with the delegated to the Chief Planning Officer to authorise the approval subject to the 106 agreement and that amended plan and all the other conditions that you see laid out in front of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belli. Claire Upton-Brown, did you want to add something to that?
No, my request to speak was earlier on.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. So we'll go now to the recommendation to grant, proposed by Councillor Benison and seconded by Councillor Davis. Councillor Anne Bellows, and this is to grant. Councillor Anne Bellows.
Thank you. Against.
Councillor Sue Benison.
For.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
Against.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
For.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Against.
Councillor Arthur Davies.
For.
Councillor Barry Dunning.
Against.
Councillor Alan Glass.
Against.
Councillor David Hawkins.
Against.
Councillor Kangarani.
Okay.
Councillor Joe Riley.
For.
Councillor Tony Ring.
Against.
Councillor Beverly Thorne.
For.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
For.
Mine will also be for. So we're back to the same situation as the last vote, which means I have the casting vote, so I will be for to grant this application.
Yes, I can confirm that that carries the motion to grant with your casting vote.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. That brings that one to an end.
Councillor Ward, if I just let you know that we've received apologies from Councillor Crizell.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Can we just make sure that we let these speakers out and new speakers in? So if you just give us a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, we've got no speakers for this item, so we can proceed.
Oh, sorry, we did have one. We did have one on the list. Is there no one available now? We had a Mr. Ferguson on the list.
We've got his statement to read out.
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed then with 2 Hobson Way, Holbury, Fawley, application 20/10663, page 101 to 106. And again, I just remind members that if you have disconnections, you need to let me know. Do we have any declarations of interest on this one, please?
I have prepared, Madam Chairman, but it is not pecuniary or any other interest, so I believe I can speak.
Thank you. Beverly Thorne?
Yes, I'm member of Fawley Parish Council.
Thank you. Are there any more? I can't see any coming up. Okay. Thank you then. We'll go over to Mr. Belli again for the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman and members. The application site occupies a prominent corner plot on Hobson Way. You see the property edged in red here. The application proposal is to grant retrospective planning permission for a fence which has already been erected on the southern boundary of the application building, the site. So the fence in question that requires planning permission is this element and the return section as well, I would say. There is an existing lower fence boundary that runs around this part of the site. So this is the proposed fence, and members have the benefit of being able to see it in the flesh, so to speak, because it's already there. So it's 12 metres in extent, to a full height of 1.8, which in Old Murray is 6 foot, and then it drops down, so you have a 17-metre section of lower fence, and so what happens is the fence panel then drops down around that corner. The fence panel is directly on the edge of the pavement. You see the grass verge and the highway, and the access into the applicant's property. So this is the view from the front of the existing property bungalow, and it shows the lower picket style fence, and that's a common type of feature and fence boundary in this location, along with low boundary walls. There are some higher fences, but not in this particular location. And this is the proposed fence that's being the subject of the application. So the officer's recommendation on this one is to refuse because it's considered that the fence, because of its position and its significant increase in height, is incongruous. It has an excessive height and position and harsh appearance, and it is in a prominent location, so it's contrary to ENV3 policy in your new local plan. The members are obviously they will take a view on this. If they are minded to approve, my only suggestion would be for you to consider that the fence is painted a darker colour, such as olive green, so that will blend it in better to the environment. But we have taken into consideration the potential for painting it a darker colour, but we still feel as officers, because of its height and its location, that it is still intrusive in the local scene. So that's the recommendation, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions? Councillor Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Recently, very close to this, we had a similar objection for a wall being built, and we lost it. I know the site very well. It's in my ward, quite close to my house. The higher part of the fence is around the back part of the garden, because the house is on a corner, which is similar to mine. It's fairly similar to the other fences there. It's the straight replacement of a picket fence or a boarded fence. I think it would be ridiculous, quite frankly, to turn this down, because it's so similar to what we've had before, and we've already lost an appeal on the same grounds. So I think we should allow a person to have a back garden fence to give them a bit of privacy and let them get on with their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Benison.
Thank you, Chairman. Are we in questions to officer, or are we in debate?
No, actually, we're in questions to officer.
Okay, thank you. My question to Mr. Belli is, I looked at Google Maps on this one, and on the opposite corner to this one, there is I'll call it brick wall with pillars and with some wooden infill. I'm guessing that probably was built a number of years ago when regulations were different. But my question is, if this fence were to be modified into something like that, would that be more acceptable, is one question. Number two question, the fence, the 3 panels that run along the boundary with the adjoining house that is beside their driveway, are those 3 panels in this application or not?
In terms of the application, as far as I'm aware, the plan shows the fence panels that are alongside the road. However, this panel also is adjoining the highway, so it technically needs planning permission if it's over 1 metre in height, because it is physically adjoining the highway, because the highway starts at that point. So it's physically touching the highway and it's higher. Those two panels, it could be argued, don't need planning permission because they are set back from the highway and they're less than 2 metres in height. So that's the first question. As far as I'm concerned, this panel needs planning permission as well as the rest of them. In terms of the style of enclosure, I think the councillor is correct in as much as when we are designing new estates nowadays, we try and avoid wherever possible high close-boarded fences adjoining public rights of way and footways. And if it's an option that we consider, if it's a requirement because it's a back garden and it needs some element of screening, then the member is correct in as much as our design standards nowadays suggest that it's a mixed brick and infill fence panel rather than a complete fence panel. So hopefully that answers the two questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, for that. That makes it clear. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Glass, you want to come in again? Oh, sorry. Councillor Davies, I can see you up there. I will come back to you. Councillor Glass, did you want to come in again?
Yeah, I should have made my point. This is a replacement of a close-boarded fence for a picket fence. That's virtually maintenance. It's like for like. I just do not see where this is coming up. Could we please justify?
Okay, but we asked you questions. We're not in debate. Councillor Glass, it is still questions. I'll come back to you in debate.
That's my question. Why are we querying it when it's replacement very similar fence?
Chairman, if I can answer that, it's a matter of legislation that the replacement of an existing fence at the same height doesn't need planning permission. I'm not aware, I've not dealt with this case, but I'm not aware that there was that height of fence there previously. So if you're replacing a lower fence with a higher one and it's adjoining the public highway used by vehicular traffic, it cannot be more than 1 metre in height. As far as I'm aware, this fence is higher than the fence that was there previously, so therefore requires planning permission.
Thank you very much. Councillor Malcolm Wade. Oh, sorry, Councillor Arthur Davies.
Oh, thank you, Chair, for remembering me. Thank you very much. No, fences can be a nightmare. I've dealt with them quite a lot in my ward. But just to say that Mr. Belli has answered the questions that I would have put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Bell, a question I want to ask is, in this residential area of Holbury, this isn't the only fence of that height. It may not be the only one of that height within a few hundred yards of that particular property, but in that area, are there other fences of a similar size and height buttressing onto the highway by different properties? Because there is a variety of shall we say, architectural fences in that area. Could you answer that, please?
Yes, Chairman. I'm led to believe by the case officer, and as I said, I didn't deal with this case, I've just picked it up because the case officer is absent, but I'm led to believe by the case officer that the member is correct. There are high fences in other locations nearby, but the case officer has not been able to locate any planning permissions for those high fences. And so it's true to say that those fences might be now immune from enforcement action because they've been in place for more than 4 years. But I'm not aware that we've actually granted any planning permissions for high fences of this nature in that area. The case officer is also pointing out that the general character of the area is one of low fences and walls, and that whilst there might be these occasional high fences, they don't appear to have planning permission. So the character of the area is one that we're actually concerned about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no more questions that I can see. So we have a statement to be read out on behalf of the applicant. So is Mr. Kinghorn reading that?
Chairman, yes, thank you. This is the statement from Mr. Ferguson. Pendra Road / Hobson Way / Crawt Avenue have in excess of over 32 wooden / fences stroke brick walls over 1800 millimetres, 6 feet. It also has a large number of 2 to 3 metre hedgerows, all of which border onto the highway. There are uninterrupted fences over 1800 millimetres from my house to Roundstone Avenue. As a new homeowner in this area, I wrongly assumed this was acceptable. Because of the unusual layout of my bungalow in respect of the garden, we have no private space as it faces the highway, Hobson Way and Croft Avenue, on all 3 sides. We have provided a small private area to the side between our house and Croft Avenue. We also dropped the fence to its original height, 1200 millimetres, to the front, Hobson Way. To avoid problems for motorists at this junction, Croft Avenue and Hobson Way, see pictures. Once again, I apologise for this oversight and hope you find this in our favour to avoid the other option of a high maintenance 3 metre Lalandi hedge. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Members, we'll move to debate. I can see your comments, Councillor Glass. Councillor Davies is actually typing. So, Councillor Davies.
Davies, yeah. Thank you, Chair. I can just about remember the war in, I take it, the same area, and the word privacy was mentioned, because it seems that the back gardens where people like privacy, they're straight onto the road, so people can just look straight into your patio doors, etc. So I think I'm in favour of allowing this, definitely, perhaps with another colour, or a colour will blend in better, as Mr. Belli said. I think we need to give people some privacy, and I think it's sitting out in your back garden on the sunbed with your swimming trunks on or something, it might not be a bit undesirable. So I will go for this. I think we should reverse the refusal. I understand absolutely why it's got to go for planning consent. Maybe we need to do a survey in that district, which has happened at in my ward. So I am going to go for to grant this.
So are you making that proposal then?
I would second that. That's Councillor Glass.
I don't want to get into the situation where we get all this muddled up. Can we leave it to the end?
Yeah, we will. I'll ask you for reasons at the end. So we'll go to Sue Bennison.
Thank you, Chairman. My slight concern is this one. It is very stark, and I did look at the property on the opposite corner, which whilst, and I'm not sure what height that one is on the opposite corner, but it has been done in a way that it softens the effect of having a rather high fence, on the corner, so close to the pavement. But my real concern is with the neighbour at number 1 Court Avenue, who now, in trying to drive a vehicle onto the road, is going to actually have to have their considerable amount of their car in the road before they can see whether it's clear to come out. So I think there's a bit of a highway issue there. And in fact, in our report, that's noted as a highway safety matter. I appreciate this is difficult when you've got a bungalow that's on the corner and looking at their site, and they are exposed all the way round. They have got a little fence across the back part, and I just wonder whether it would have been better for them to have made better use of that part rather than fencing off yet a piece that would appear to be more to the front than the back. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going to vote on this one, but I think at the moment I'm slightly on the side of the officers. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Yep, I totally understand why the authority would want to refuse this. However, I think it'd be a bit unfair, really, because in that area, and I have some experience of being in that area, there are a variety fences and boundaries and so forth. And I do are cognizant of the fact that this particular dwelling requires a level of privacy in its back garden, you know, and the fact that he's got the fence there already, if it can be treated by the different colour or something to make it more less intrusive, or whatever you'd like, one word one could use, I would support that. So I'm not really of a mind to object to this, because I think it'd be a bit unfair, because as the officer admitted, there are many other fences and boundaries of that height in the area. It just so this particular chap could be penalised, and I don't think we're going to do enforcement action on every fence over a certain height in the district. So I think really that we should let it go.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Hawkins?
Yes, can you hear? Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me now?
If you can, yeah.
This is an old chestnut for me. It's retrospective. And I think that we as a district council should fine these people for doing something without getting planning permission, because it's a rule and we ignore the rule. So if we're going to ignore the rule, let's get rid of the bloody rule. That's where I'm coming from. But I agree with Sue Benison that it is also a highways issue for that person trying to remove his car from his driveway on a bend, blind now because there's a fence there. So I'm going to vote the side of the officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I just go to Claire Upton Brown before I come to any other members?
Yeah, Chair, my RTS was just to seek clarification on the motion, not only in terms of the reason, but also whether that was conditional. But we can come to that when we get back to the motion.
Okay. So, Alan Glass, do you want to come back?
Yes, please. As a local councillor, I live very close to this. I know the area extremely well, and the fences go up to full height, half height. People like a front fence to stop the dogs running onto their garden and doing whatever they do. And they also like a bit of privacy. To pick out one house that a person just moved into and tried to make secure and give themselves some privacy in the back garden, I find very difficult. I think they have made a genuine mistake for which they are now apologised and trying to put it right. I agree with that it could be a nice darker colour, but I'm quite happy to second the motion for acceptance, because I think it would be churlish to turn it down. Now I must remind the council that we turned down one very close for a brick wall and we lost that case for this very reason.
Thank you. Thank you. Joe Riley, sorry, I did see you. You're up. No, that's Arthur Davies. Yeah, can I go to Councillor Riley, please?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Wade and Davis. I think that if this fence was painted, as the officer did mention in his report, I think it would be acceptable to me, and I think to penalise the man now is not on. I think I would support it to stay, and I agree with Councillor Wade and Davis. Thank you.
Councillor Ring.
Thank you, Chair. For me, it's a very simple proposition. It's no good citing others that are there without planning permission. As an authority, we have to uphold our position. The rule is there. If we knowingly grant it and reject the measure of the rule, then how the devil will we ever refuse any future ones? And this whole area in a few years' time may well be a sea of 6 or 7 foot high fences. I go with the officer and say we should refuse.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll take one more, and that's Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick comment that obviously there's a concern expressed for the resident of Crawter Avenue whose vision might be blocked by this fence, but I'm just looking at my papers. I noticed that there were no representations received, so I'm assuming that he hasn't objected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, I think we've had a good debate on this one, so we will go to a vote. We've had a proposal to change the recommendation.
Can we confirm that Arthur Davis did propose that?
Councillor Davis?
Yes, I still have to find the wording right.
Yeah, we will need reasons.
Someone could help me here, I can imagine.
And Councillor Glass, you're seconded. So do you have
I'm
reasons?
seconding this. I would agree to add on the words for painting it a more subdued colour. But I think on the reason, we can give the reason on precedent set by appeal on number 2. Any question? The precedent set in the area.
Claire Upton-Brown, can I bring you in?
Yeah, can I step in? The reason can't be precedent. Maybe listening to the debate, I could suggest that the committee were of the view that the fence was not an incongruous feature within the street scene and was necessary to protect the amenities of the resident of the property. I'd also question the committee whether they would want to attach a planning condition which would be worded that within 3 months from the date of the permission, the fence should be painted in the shade of grey agreed by the local planning authority.
That sounds very good to me.
Are you happy with that then? Councillor Davis and Glass?
Yes, I'm very happy with that. Can I say a couple of words? Because I did put an RTS up there before I put my what's the name in. Perhaps I shouldn't, but basically the dangerous bit. People, first of all, retrospective. People sometimes don't know the procedure. They see other fences and they put it in planning permission. So it's a bit harsh. I know my old friend there hates that, but some people do make mistakes, or they put it in thinking they don't need it. That's one thing. The other thing is coming out of that road. I'm looking at the highway safety. And this was not insufficient to justify a refusal, because apparently the car comes out on the pavement. Don't actually go out on the road before you can see display. So just a couple of things there.
Okay.
I thank you, Claire, for giving me help with the exact wording. But the parish council are in favour of this. The Councillor Glass lives around there. He's in favour. We lost the wall. I think it's common sense that we should grant this fence planning permission.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to the vote. So we're changing for a change in the recommendation, and that is to grant. That has been proposed by Councillor Davis and seconded by Councillor Glass. So we are voting to grant. Councillor Anne Bellows.
For.
Councillor Sue Benison.
Against.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
For.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Against.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
For.
Oh, she's not here. Councillor Kate Cresswell. Councillor Arthur Davies.
For.
Councillor Barry Dunning.
For.
Councillor Alan Glass.
For.
Councillor David Hawkins.
Against.
Councillor, no, she's not here. Councillor Kangarani.
Against.
Councillor Joe Riley.
For.
Councillor Tony Ring.
Against.
Councillor Beverly Thorne.
For.
And Councillor Malcolm Wade.
For.
And I'll go for the 4, so that wins. That wins the vote. So can you clarify that for me, please, Democratic Services?
Hello, I've got 10 votes for, 5 votes against, so that carries the motion to approve.
Thank you very much. That's been granted then. Right, members, I'm going to go on to one more application and then we'll take a break. I'm aware that people do need to leave, so we do kind of need to plough through this. So we'll go on to Land of Hathaway House, Lower Pennington, which is on pages 121 to 132 on the agenda, planning application 20/10724. And do we have Joe Chambers here for the presentation?
Good morning, Chairman. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Excuse me, before you start, I do need to take interests. I know we've got interests on this one, so it would be Councillor Corbridge and
Barry Dunning.
Barry Dunning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sorry, Chairman, I'm just sorting out a technical issue. I'll be with you shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you see the screen and the presentation correctly now?
It's loading. We can see it now, yes.
Thank you. So there's an extent planning permission for a new dwelling and garage on this site. It was approved earlier this year. The current application is for a variation of condition regarding the plans. So the screen at the moment is showing the extant planning permission, which is edged in red on the top plan. The current application is the current variation. There's an amendment to the garage proposed and an amendment to the design of the kitchen area. If we come on to the detailed layout plans, the proposal is to infill an existing recessed area on the approved scheme, which will allow the creation of a pantry in the kitchen area. The footprint would be no closer, would project no further forward than the existing bedroom wing. In terms of the design of the roof, the extant permission has a large single glazed section. The current proposal has 3 individual glazed panels with a flat roof over the pantry area. If we look at the elevations, the approved scheme has a very large glazed panel on the elevation. This would be removed and in its place there would be matching materials for the rest of the bedroom wing with the flat roof continuing across. With regards to the proposed changes to the garage, the approved garage is shown on the top right of the screen. The width is now proposed to be increased such that it could function as a double garage. The design of the roof has also been amended. If we look at the top left, we can see the approved scheme has a ridge line going from side gable to side gable. This has now been changed, so we have a front gable feature. The roof would be hipped away from the side boundary with red roofs and would also be hipped away from the new dwelling itself. As regards the rear elevation, the approved scheme has it hipping away from the properties that at a Newbridge Way. The proposed scheme has it hipping away but also hipping to the sides to reduce the overall bulk and mass. Again, if we look at the elevations, we can compare them. So this elevation here, the top of the roof hips away, whereas it's a side gable in the approved scheme. If we look at the rear, the view from Newbridge Way, this is the approved garage and dwelling. The proposed roof, we can see we have more space to the side, and the roof itself hips away. This is the view of the front of the property. Again, the approved scheme is on the top of the screen. We can see the gap between the new dwelling and the approved garage. There's still a perceivable and distinctive gap between the two buildings, and also by amending the roof design, we've increased the amount of discernible space between the two blocks there as well. The approved scheme has a number of biodiversity improvements, including bat tunnels, swift boxes, provision for hedgehogs. These have been replicated in the current scheme, and now we have some photos of the site. The view on the screen at the moment is the entrance would follow through. This is the view towards Newbridge Way properties at the rear. The garage would be in this position and the new dwelling will be just to the right. Hathaway House itself can be seen to the right of the picture. Again, we've got views across the width of the site towards the northern boundary. Number 37 Elm Avenue can be seen in the distance. The proposed amendment to the kitchen would be no closer to 37 Elm Avenue than the existing screen. Again, we've got views towards the southeast corner. We've got red roofs along this boundary, and we've got Newbridge Way properties along this boundary. The garage itself would be no closer to the boundaries than the extant planning permission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I have questions from members, please? Sue Bennison.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Ms. Chambers. Could we go back to chart 152? And the current proposal seems to have got a window in, I'm not quite sure what it's over, but that's the one you're showing. The previous one didn't have a window in the roof and the bottom one has. I'm assuming that's a window, that square. No, that chart. That's the one. Yes.
This grey
info
here.
Yes, what is that?
Right. If we go onto the roof plans, we can see the Velux windows that were approved in the extant scheme, and they're also approved. They're also looking to just replicate that. There's been no notification that's been a change to the roof design. Looking at this plan, I would suggest that it is a CAD error. It's not shown on the detailed design of the roof itself.
Okay, so there's no extra window?
No, there's nothing in the description. That's correct, Councillor. Nothing in the description, nothing in the information that's been put forward, and nothing on the actual roof plan itself.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Do I have any more questions? Nobody is indicating. So we have two public speakers, Deborah Slade on behalf of the applicant, and again Councillor Ashby for Lymington and Pennington Town Council. So Miss Deborah Slade, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just do the quick sound check just to make sure you can hear me.
Thank you, that's fine.
Thank you. This application seeks minor amendments to planning permission for a dwelling and garage, which was granted by NFDC earlier this year. The two changes are as follows. Firstly, to increase the width of the garage by around 1 metre to accommodate 2 cars. However, the ridge height will not be increased and the roof form will be hipped in order to minimise impact on neighbouring amenity. The garage is still less than 4 metres high to ridge. Secondly, to increase the size of the link in the centre of the house by around 1.7 metres to align the link with the main external wall of the house. The small link would be changed from glass to clad finished on the north elevation. The main issues to consider are whether these changes would materially impact upon neighbouring amenity or the wider character of the area. A very small scale of changes, along with the position and distance to neighbouring properties, it's not considered that these changes would have a significant impact on the amenity of the area. The density of the development would not materially increase and the house would still sit well on the site with good distance to boundaries. The minor amendments would not be of a scale or position which materially impact upon the street scene. The slightly larger garage would provide for 2 parked cars or 1 car and bicycle storage. As Joe said, that little spot on the screen there is just an indicative position of the roof lights. It's not meant to be a change to the overall approved scheme. Overall, it's considered the proposal would still comply with policy ENV3 and it's therefore hoped that the small amendments can be granted on this basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, please, for Ms. Slade? Councillor Brand.
Can I just ask about what she just said at the very last there about that being an indicative window? Does that mean it's going to come back asking for a window?
No, there's not intended to be any further changes to this scheme, and if there was, we would have included the window on this iteration of the application. So no, I think it's just a CAD error. Hannah must have just indicatively left it on there. But if you look at the roof plan, it confirms that the roof lights don't change in any position over than where they've been granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any more questions? Then I'll go to Councillor Ashby. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. When this application came up originally, we were certainly not very much in favour of it, because it was on the very limit of suitability. It was already recognised that it was negatively impacting on their neighbouring properties and their amenity, and we think that any further development would definitely be unsympathetic and uncharacteristics. We think that the development is overly dense. It's cramming a property into a small space, and it is in direct conflict with NFDC's policy CS 2.7. The other thing that we need to take into account is that we're seeing that this appears to be relatively minor changes. Well, it's not. We see this as a deliberate tactic of mission creep, and is very similar to that what we've experienced with Arashah, and we can expect further changes. We completely oppose this and would ask you to refuse this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, we have already approved the building, and these are amendments. Can I go to...
I accept that point.
Sorry. Before I ask questions, can I go Claire Upton Brown?
Yes, Chair, it was just on a point of clarification. We are seeking delegated authority, but that would also need to be subject to an amended plan that takes the erroneous window that shouldn't be there away, so that there is no lack at a later date around what has or hasn't been approved. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. So members, do you have any more questions for Councillor Ashby? In that case, we'll go into debate. We're now into debate. Councillor Sue Benison.
Thank you, Chairman. Members seem a bit reluctant, so I'm first into the sway again. First of all, thank you, Claire Upton Brown, for that change to that window that I pointed out. It certainly looked like a window, so that would just clear up that point. As regards these amendments, let's take the little extension for the pantry. I'm looking at the plans now. This is going to remove an area of glass that was proposed in the previous application, with some panelling which is going to continue the line along, and the extension is just going to be flat roof. So to my mind, I think that's an improvement actually over the previous application. As regards the garage, I am looking at the plan again, and it doesn't seem to have moved any closer to the boundary. It's moved closer to the building itself in order to turn it into a double garage. The slope of the roof changed, I think, is a benefit to the adjoining properties, in as much as it will be sloping away from them. So I'm minded on this one. I will more than likely be voting with the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor David Hawkins.
Yes, there seems to be a reluctance to talk about this, so I'm going to propose that we accept this recommendation from NFDC.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Oh, I was just saying, I'll second that.
So Sue Bennison. Thank you. So I can't see any more people wishing to speak. So we'll come back to Ms. Slade. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I don't think I've got much else to add other than to confirm that that's fine to do an amended plan to avoid any ambiguity about the exact position of the roof light prior to decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ashby, 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If this proposal was to be accepted as a variation, would there be any method of being able to put a halt to any further changes to prevent this mission creep that we're concerned about? Can somebody reply to that?
Well, any other changes would have to come back to planning, but if Claire Upton-Brown wants to come in here.
Yes, Chair, just to reinforce that point, any further changes would be the subject of a new planning application. The reason why it's important that we ensure that the plans are correct and only show what we're granting permission for is so that we don't have any lack of clarity at a later date should there be anything that appears in the building that might not actually be the subject of the planning application you're being asked to consider this morning.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, we're going to go to the vote. So the recommendation is to grant. That's been proposed by David Hawkins, Councillor David Hawkins, and seconded by Councillor Sue Bennison. So we are voting to grant this application. Councillor Anne Bellows.
4.
Councillor Sue Bennison.
4.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
4.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
4.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Against.
Councillor Arthur Davies.
4.
Councillor Barry Dunning.
Against.
Councillor Alan Glass.
4.
Councillor David Hawkins.
4.
Councillor Kangarani.
4.
Councillor Joe Riley.
4.
Councillor Tony Ring.
4.
Councillor Beverly Thorne.
4.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
4.
And I'm also 4. So that has been carried. If we can have confirmation, please.
Hello, I can confirm that we've got 13 votes for, 2 votes against. That carries the motion to grant.
Thank you very much. Members, I'm now going to adjourn the meeting for, say, 20 minutes. If you can be back at 1:45.
Madam Chairman, I've got to leave.
Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, to the Planning Committee, and we will now commence with our next application, which is Barbary House, Wild Ground Lane, Hythe, application 20/10656, pages 93 to 100 on your agenda.
Interest, Chairman.
Yes. Can I have interest?
Yeah, I sit on Hythe and Didburn Parish Council and on the Planning Committee, but I haven't spoken about this application or made any comment. I also am a Hampshire County Councillor, which deals with children's services, although, excuse me, this is not a Hampshire County Council children's home, it's a private one.
Thank you very much. Rebecca Clark?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm a member of Hythe and Didburn Parish Council, but I'm not on its Planning Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more interests? I think that's it then. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the case officer then, Joe Chambers, and would you like to do your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The presentation should be on your screen now.
It is, thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on, that's it. Yeah, we've got it.
Okay, thank you. The application is for a change of use from a dwelling house to a care home for 4 residents. Barbary House itself is a detached property accessed off Wild Ground Lane. Wild Ground Lane is a no-through road. It's closed off here. It provides access to 4 other properties. Elm Croft opposite Barbary House is accessed from Butts Ash Lane. Wild Ground Lane itself is a private road. The applicant wishes to use the property for a domestic residence for 4 young people aged between 14 to 18. Staff will work on a rota basis with 1 member of staff per resident. 1 member of staff will arrive for the night shift and 1 of the daytime members of staff will also stay over. The others members of staff would leave and go home. Hythe and Dibden Parish Council is concerned at the impact on highway matters and neighbour amenity. There are no changes proposed to the building itself. We can see the existing site layout and the proposed site layout, no changes are proposed. Again, if we look at the existing and proposed floor plans, they are as existing. This is a 5-bedroom, 3-reception detached property. And we have the first floor, the layout of the bedrooms, the arrangement is not to be changed as part of this application. It's purely for a change of use, a land use matter. Officers consider that the proposal would, the level of occupation would be similar to that of a detached C3 dwelling house. Any impact on noise and amenity of neighbours is considered that would be generated by a single detached dwelling occupied by a large family. The proposal meets the parking standards that are set out in the parking guidelines. There's no on-street parking restrictions on Butts Ash Lane. The Highway Authority have been consulted. The advice is that the traffic generation would not be significantly different to that of the existing property used as a detached house. There is no objection. Now, I would advise members that the use proposed falls into use class C2. In addition to the provision of residential accommodation for a care home for people in need, that use class also includes the use as a hospital or nursing home and the use as a residential school, college or training centre. I suggest that members may want to consider, if they are minded to grant the permission, they may want to consider restricting the use to the use as a care home for up to 4 residents. There is, as an officer, I'm mindful that the amount of activity that could be generated by the other uses in the use class C2 could generate a lot more activity on that site. Thank you, Chairman. The application itself is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any officers for Joe Chambers? Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. My RTS was to declare my interest. I don't have any.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
But that's okay.
Okay. So, Councillor Sue Bennison, then, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Oh, I'm just trying to get my video back on again. My question is regarding the bedrooms. 4 bedrooms upstairs. I'm looking at the chart. The member of staff presumably would use the study stroke 5th bedroom. Am I correct in that? Which is proposed on the ground floor.
We've not been notified which bedroom would be used by the staff. It wasn't felt necessary that we had that information as part of the application. From a logical point of view, you may think it would be logical for them to have the ground floor one, but that detail isn't part of the application.
Okay, but from what you were saying, we may restrict this to 4 residents.
Yes, the application itself, the description is for a change of use from the building from a dwelling house to a care home for up to 4 residents. However, as you'll be aware, often use classes can contain a number of different alternative uses that the property then could jump between without a need for applying for planning permission. There wouldn't be a need for separate planning permission. As I say, be mindful that the amount of activity that could be generated for use as a training centre and the level of comings and goings. Members may, if they are mindful to approve the scheme, look to introduce a condition to restrict it for a care home up to 4 residents, which is actually what is being applied for.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glass, questions?
Thank you. Yeah, my question has largely been asked by Councillor Benison, but I would like to go on. How can we limit this to a care home so that it doesn't become a special school? How can we do it?
Can I maybe step in there and answer that question?
Yes, please.
And also, I think it might be just worth clarifying the point that Councillor Benison has just made about the bedroom downstairs. As Jo explained in her presentation, there will be 24-hour supervision on this site, and whilst there'll be overnight supervision, that person will not be sleeping. So the downstairs room would be a facility for the person to be there overnight, but because of the nature of the use, a care home, it is 24-hour care. In terms of how can we restrict that, as Jo suggested, if members are minded to grant planning permission, we are recommending to them that it's done with an additional condition that actually limits the use to a care home only and doesn't allow it to be used for other uses that fall within the same part of the use class.
Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions, and they both relate to the numerous bits of correspondence that we've all received. The first one is we understand there's a requirement for an Ofsted report. There has been a lot of neighbour concern about the one resident that's already living there and the disturbance that he's caused in the area. So my first question is it possible to actually ask for an Ofsted report before planning permission is granted? Can I ask that question first?
Would you like me to answer that, Chairman?
Yes, please, yes.
So the Ofsted regime is separate to the planning legislation. This is a planning application where we're considering the land use matter. Ofsted registration, the agent has explained that the property will be Ofsted registered, but that is a separate regime from the planning process, and I don't think it would be appropriate to insist that Ofsted, the Ofsted registration was in place prior to determining the planning application.
Thank you for that, Jo. And my other question was about the about Wildground Road. There's been a lot of representation that as this is the entrance to the property, and there is an increase in traffic on Wildground Road because and there will be more so, excuse me, because each of these residents will have one-to-one care. Wildground Road is a private road, and it is up to the residents to actually maintain the road, obviously. With the extra traffic, it's going to cause further deterioration. We've all received pictures of potholes and things. Do you have any comment on that, please?
No, as a private road, it would be up to the people who had the ownership rights and the right of access to agree between them, subject to whatever legal agreement might be in place as to how that is meant to be maintained. It isn't something that would be dealt with as part of the planning application.
I see. And conversely, also we've been sent photographs of Butsash Road and how dangerous that is because of all the parked cars and so on. So conversely, I assume that nobody has actually examined the possibility of this property coming out onto Butsash Lane as opposed to Wildground Road.
That doesn't form part of the planning application. The committee's been asked to consider the change of use rather than introducing any new access arrangements. It's not part of the application.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wade, I didn't miss you. I've got you next on the list.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry. Yeah, the question for Joe Chambers is about parking. One of the slides shows the cars parked in two lines, of which two of them are in the garage. That is, I would like your comment on really. That is theoretical, but not a practical way to park on that site. And did you not say that there was no parking restriction on Wild Ground Lane?
Hello, Councillor. It's Joe Chambers. I've put the slide back on the screen that I think is the one that you're referring to.
No, it's not it's the one where it shows the 6 cars and the garage. It's the one before that, I think. It's the actual one of the site itself. Oh, you have got it there. Yes, sorry. It is there.
Okay.
Yes, it's there.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having a grey moment there.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 cars on there. That's not how you would park on that site. It's just not practical because you could, for starters, the cars would be able to back out and turn round. Also, I believe did you say there was no parking restrictions on Wild Ground Lane?
Butts Ash Lane, which is the public highway just to the south that Wild Ground Lane connects onto. I do have some photographs which you can show. So the photographs now show the existing parking area on the top left. Wild Ground Lane itself is the 2 photographs on the right hand side. The bottom left shows Butts Ash Lane and the fact that there's no parking restrictions there. Now in the report under the section on impact on highway safety, it does set out the parking requirements in accordance with our parking guidelines, and although the plan, as you rightly say, shows a number of cars parked on the site, and including within the garage, the parking requirement under the guidelines are not for the number of vehicles that are shown on that site plan. We do not believe that the proposal would cause a conflict with the car parking guidelines. We're mindful that Butts Ash Lane itself doesn't have any parking restrictions on, so members of the public, who have a lawful vehicle are at liberty to park on there in accordance with other legislation in the Highway Code. And the Highway Authority is also being consulted and with regard to the level of traffic that's likely to be generated, and the level of activity, the use of this site for a care home for four residents is not considered to generate an amount of traffic or parking that would be significantly different to its use as a 5-bedroom family home.
I think that may be a subjective comment, but okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Claire Upton-Brown, do you want to come in here?
I haven't got anything significantly further to add, but I think in terms of the parking situation that Joe's just described, the plan in front of you is probably not relevant to what you're being asked to consider, because it's 2.5 parking spaces that need to be accommodated on the site.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hilary Brand.
I just wondered if there was any way to change the hours that the people will be working, because I know that was one of the issues with people, 4 people leaving and 4 people turning up at 10:30 at night for the changeover, and whether it might be more sensible to change the hours so the changeover was at 9 o'clock, for example, so not quite as late in the evening.
I'm not sure if that can be part of the application, but I'll let Joe answer it anyway.
No, we have been given information on the shift pattern, and it does go up to 10:30 in the evening. Just to clarify for the council, though, there will be 1 member of staff with each of the residents. So 4 residents equals 4 members of staff. At 10:30, there will be a shift change. 1 member of staff would arrive for the night shift. 1 member of the daytime staff would stay overnight as well, and the other 3 would leave. So there would not be 4 members of staff arriving for the night shift and 4 leaving. There would be 1 member of staff arriving for the night shift.
but still 3 leaving. So it's still quite a lot of noise going on late at night when people are probably going to be in bed. And if it could be changed to 9 o'clock changeover, I'm sure that would make a lot of difference to the residents.
Thank you for your comments. I'll go to Councillor Sue Bennison.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I need to go back to Claire Upton Brown's information that she gave us, which was with regard to numbers of bedrooms going to be used. There will be a member of staff who will sleep overnight, because that member of staff will have done the day shift and is going to remain there. So a member of staff will need a bedroom to sleep in. So I'm assuming that study bedroom on the ground floor would be the one. That's all I just wanted to clarify, because Claire Upton Brown was saying that there wouldn't necessarily be a member of staff sleeping overnight, but in fact my understanding is that there will be. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Arthur Davies.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, regarding the parking, Hampshire Highways have no objection, so it'd be difficult to pursue that any further. I do take note of the council, the local council, the people that actually live in there. There is one thing. I mean, I've worked with challenging young people, worked with special needs. I just wonder if there's any way, I know the answer to this, but I wonder if Joe can allay the fears, because there is fears, that these 4 young people with complex social behaviour, emotional needs, will not cause them major grief. I think that's one of them said there's some swearing going on at the moment. And is there anything that you can allay their fears? I mean, I've worked with if it's properly supervised, I've been in these sort of places, you wouldn't notice it from anywhere else. I mean, they're run professionally. They're absolutely fantastic places. I mean, we need them desperately. But I can understand the fears from the local residents. I wonder if Joe could come up with any way to allay these fears.
Thank you, Councillor. I think you might have answered your own question there, if you don't mind me saying. So the applications for the change of use, it's for a care home for 4 residents. In planning, we'll look at the land use. There may be, issues to do with how a property is managed. That could be the same for a family accommodation with rowdy members of the family for whatever. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the use of the land to provide a care home for the 4 residents would inevitably cause a nuisance. I think it would be something that you would expect to be controlled by the management and the training of the staff that will be operated there.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
Sorry, members, I was muted then. I have a lot of noise going on outside, so I had to mute. There are no other questions for the officer, so I'll go to public speakers. So, Mr. Matt Holmes, the agent, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I just make sure you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members. Sorry, good afternoon. This planning application seeks approval for the change of use of Barbary House to a care home for up to 4 young people who will be supported at all times by a small team of care workers. Barbary House is an ideal site for the proposed use, as it is a large detached property with a good sized garden and ample car parking space. It therefore lends itself to the use of as a small care home without necessitating any extension or significant adaptation of the property. As noted in your officer's report, the National Planning Policy Framework encourages local authorities to ensure that sufficient housing is available to meet the needs of different groups in the community, including those in need of care. Barbary House will provide dedicated residential care for a small number of young people with complex needs. For this type of care, it is often the case that homes with lower numbers of residents are preferable as it keeps the environment as close as possible to a family home. Whilst residents of the home will have a range of needs, as described in your officer's report, they will be supported around the clock by a small team of trained staff, including at least one member of staff per child during the day and 2 staff members present overnight. Your officer's report notes that the impact of the proposal would be similar to that of a large house, and we agree with that view. It is preferable for the home to be situated within a residential area, and there can be few more preferable properties than one with a large house and garden. The residents will have regular therapy sessions provided by trained staff. The majority of the young people at the home will have come from neglectful or abusive homes, and Barbary House will provide a sheltered and secure environment with specialist staff that can help them rebuild their lives. Members, there is car parking space on the site for multiple cars, and even if on-street parking were needed, that is unrestricted on this part of Butsash Lane. Care accommodation is a residential use, and the site is located in a residential area. The proposed use of the building is therefore in keeping with its surroundings. As no external alterations to the building are proposed, the change of use also preserves the character and appearance of the area. As already said, a small number of residents of the home will be supported around the clock by care staff, and that should ensure that the amenities of neighbouring properties are not impacted. Finally, your highways officers have raised no objection to the proposals. Accordingly, I commend the proposals to you and would ask that you grant planning permission as set out in your officer's report. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Members, before I go to questions, I'll also invite Mrs. Kirsten to speak, who is also in support of this application. Mrs. Kirsten, you have 3 minutes. Thank you. Do we have Mrs. Kirsten?
It looks like she's present. I'm not sure if her microphone's on mute.
Well, she's just typing a message. We'll just wait to see what she's saying.
She's asked that her statement be read out.
Do we have it? Do we have
Chairman, yeah, Chairman, it's Andrew Kinghorn here. Yes, I do have a copy of it.
Okay, fine. Could you go ahead then, please? Thank you.
The applicant's staff have been neighbours of ours for most months of this year. We have had no trouble at all. The occupants already fit without any fuss into family life in Wildground Lane, and there is no notable difference in condition of the lane, volume of noise or traffic in and out of the property as compared to the previous occupants. The Director of Pathway Care 360 has even offered to repair the potholes in Wildground Lane that were there long before they moved in. It seems the bulk of objections are related to traffic issues in Butsash Lane. Yes, the traffic situation in Butsash Lane is far worse in recent years, but these problems have been well established and recorded in PDF document by residents of Wildground Lane as far back as 2018 in response to the previous owner's application to build 6 dwellings on the site. I believe that the current applicant should not be unfairly held responsible for pre-existing traffic issues, which are no worse as a result of their occupancy of Barbary House. Instead, they should be allowed to proceed with providing a stable care home to 4 young individuals as planned. Thank you, Chairman. I think you're on mute, Chairman.
Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this noise outside the house. Thank you very much for reading that statement. Members, I will now go to the debate.
Chairman, could I ask a question with regard to the statement?
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Kirsten, does she live in Wildground Lane?
Chairman, her address is Woodbury, Wildground Lane.
Yes, so
yes, in that case she does. She's one of the residents.
She is the neighbour.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, fine. Any more questions? Then we'll go to debate. We are now in debate. Councillor Sue Bennison.
Okay, I'll start this one off. Mrs. Kirsten's statement is very compelling and puts a different view on, for me, on this. I had great concerns about this one, particularly if and I know a lot of these issues I'm going to say won't stand up in planning, but 4 people coming every day, space for 4 cars, all have to back out, 3 people going at night, 1 arriving. We've had lots of communications from neighbours giving us a different view to Mrs. Kirsten's, and one showing us photographs of the wear and tear on the gravel drive, and yet we hear from Mrs. Kirsten that the owners of this, the applicant, has agreed to repair the road, which is to be congratulated. So I'm a bit stuck on this one. I really don't know which way to go. I feel for the neighbours if they are being having to hear, bad language and noise at 10:30 at night and so on and so forth. But having heard from Mrs. Kirsten, who also lives in the lane, she puts a completely different complexion on it. So I'll wait to hear from others before deciding which way I'm going to go, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Mrs. Kirsten lives opposite, but a little bit further down the lane, if my memory serves correctly. I know this area very well, Chairman.
Malcolm, no, she lives on the same side, but right at the top where the lane.
Right at the very end. It's
yes,
the
on
end
the
one.
same side.
Yeah, it's just not the next door neighbour. Okay, I know this area very well. I also know children's homes quite well because I serve on the county council. One of the issues is that this is already a children's home because it's already got a young person in it, and the neighbours, apart from Mrs. Kirsten, are concerned about the traffic. Now, what you probably don't know, a few yards down the road and to the right of the looking at it, the entrance to Wildground is a very popular public house. So the road does get full of cars. Sadly, even during the COVID period, but certainly will be under normal times. So there is a traffic issue. There are multiple junctions just to the other side of this one. So there are a lot of cars, a lot of traffic movements. And what we must realise in this children's home, where there are 1 member of staff for every young person, there are visitors. Who does the cooking? Who is the manager, one of those, or is that another one? There may well be extra staff that are not there all the time, are there part of the time. The fact that the plans show a multitude of cars, which is a bit odd, may well be more of an indication of how many vehicles will be visiting the site during the day. So I take odds that it will be the same as a family. The family that lived there did not have 5 cars prior to that, I can assure you, know that. I hope there are some real concerns. There's a traffic issue. There's the fact that if they're dealing with particularly sensitive young people who have a range of challenging issues, 1-to-1, they may need more than 1-to-1 on occasion. There may be issues that we're not aware of. Once we give permission for this, there will be changes to this that we will have no control over. So to make the point, what seems an innocuous and is supported by one neighbour can potentially produce a situation that's very, very different. This is a residential area. On the one side, you can say, well, that's an ideal place to put a home, and I have some sympathy for that view. But on the other, it's down a non-Hampshire adopted road. There are serious traffic issues and junctions in the area. And I think that a lot of the neighbours have real concerns over it, that the issue that you've all seen about a young person coming out who's emotionally disturbed is the sort of situation that will be happening on potentially on a regular basis at that house, because those are the fortunate young people they have to deal with. And you know, that I don't doubt that the company wants to do a good job, but it isn't easy. And we must recognise the fact that by granting permission, if that is what this committee does, it will be putting something in a residential area that the current neighbours are not used to having to have. And there will be traffic issues, I have no doubt about that. Thank you, Chairman. I am not convinced this is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Councillor David Hawkins.
Yes, I can't agree with Councillor Wade, because we young people with these problems need to be helped. And why are we kicking them away to an isolated area? Put them on the island of Mull, then, if that's what you want to do. I'm sorry, the traffic problems, shut the pub and then there won't be any traffic problems. I think this is a travesty of justice, and we should allow this to go through, as is a home for young people, to get them in the right frame of mind to live a useful life. And I think if we don't, we're condemning them to just walk away and have no help whatsoever. So I would vote in favour of it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alan Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My worry is, would this require special fencing? Because my son worked in the care industry for a long time, and some of the people of that age, teenagers, can be very boisterous. He got quite badly injured sometimes. And I'm not saying this could happen, and I agree these people need help, but we also have to assure the safety of the people in the area. So does this require special fencing? And I should think it would. Is that on the Planning Commission? Thank you.
Gosh, I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, Councillor Glass, but I will go back to Jo Chambers and ask her if she can comment on that. But no, special fencing, I can't see that. Jo, can you comment on it?
The application is for a change of use. The proposal is not for a secure unit. It's for a care home for children who have complex needs. There's no proposal as part of the application to introduce any security fencing or other type of fencing.
Thank you very much.
That helps me know who's going to be in there. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kangarani.
Thank you. I'm just trying to put my thought together. Obviously, we need to look after these young people somehow. We can't just ignore the fact. And also, we cannot say not on my doorstep, because obviously they're not going to go away. Therefore, given the fact that we're living in a highly concentrated building, we are all crammed together wherever you go, doesn't matter, we'll be next door to you. But I can't say how we can refuse that, given the fact that these people need a home. Alternatively, maybe the council can take responsibility and have purpose-built places for these people to live, rather than just walk them out into society or to community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much. I've been listening to the debate with much interest. My concern is that a lot of the discussion so far is potentially to do with things that would be within the management of the care home once it was established. So if there were difficulties with disturbances at night or how it was being managed, that would be managed out with any planning considerations that we've got today. also, as regards the traffic issues, unfortunately, if we were to refuse on those grounds, there is nothing from the Highways Authority to support that currently. I mean, my feeling is it's a very large house with 5 bedrooms, where all sorts of combinations of families and traffic and circumstances could happen in a house that large. Even if there were just one, say, elderly resident in that large house, they could have multiple carers and visitors looking after them if they had complex needs. My feeling is these are members of our community and they have every right to live within a residential area. And a lot of the reasons for refusing this currently sound speculative, and they don't sound to be things that can't be managed, you know, within the normal way that we would have such establishments be managed. And if there are complaints, we have avenues to deal with those, but they're not within planning. So at the moment, I am minded to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Yes, I did miss you, Arthur Davis, so I'll go to you now.
I'll accept your apologies, Chair. No, 100% agree with Councillor Clark, Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Kangarani. And I was scratching my head a little bit about some of the other councillors. Fencing, we might be talking about secure electric fencing or card wire. Excuse me, sorry, I apologise for saying that. Traffic, I mean, we've been over the traffic, round and round in circles. There's no objection from the Hampshire Highways, and also we do need these places for these poor children. As I say, I worked in the area. If it is professionally run, and I take it this one will be, there's no problems at all. Like I've been in and out of them. I've been somewhere there's two care people to one. They're the extreme type, and they're professionally, you know, it's terrible for the families. I mean, it bring you tears. But the thing I like to say, I would like to go for this, recommend it, but I do like what Joe said at the beginning about restricting it to 4 people and not the other bits that could cause problems.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wade, have you got anything new to add to the debate?
Yeah, just two quick points, Chairman. Actually, I'm very cognizant of the fact that one can only talk about planning issues in reference to this application, and I have been careful only to do so. I have to respond to Councillor Hawkins' point. I totally agree we need to look after the vulnerable in our society, and it's absolutely right that we do that. And it's absolutely right that facilities are provided. They don't have to be in the middle of a moor away from anybody. Hampshire County Council has put some very good care homes in urban areas, specially designed for specific locations to blend in with the buildings around them, the properties around them. I just feel that this is not an ideal site for this type of facility. By all means, if it was somewhere else, I'll be the first person to say, let's have it. But just from the point of view of the environment around it, and despite Hampshire Highways' traffic issue is based on a set criteria, but the set criteria isn't the criteria that happens every moment of every day, and I still believe there will be some traffic issues. So I'm not unsympathetic to what the organisation wants to do. I'm very sympathetic, very supportive of it, but I'm not certain that this is the right place. Thank you.
I can see David Hawkins on there, but there's 2 other speakers that haven't spoken yet, so I'll let them speak first. So that's Councillor Corbridge, Joe Riley. I'll come back to David Hawkins and then I'm going to close the debate. So Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Thank you, Chairman. I've listened to this with interest. I mean, I also have many years of experience in working with this kind of disturbed adolescents. And it's a tricky one. I have a lot of understanding of the local residents who might not want this within their midst and obviously have suffered already from bad behaviour. But I think that It's the right way to go. It's the right thing to do to have this sort of facility within the heart of our community. And I think that we are being asked to have a lot of confidence in the people who are actually running this, because if you run it properly with the guidelines, then there shouldn't be too many problems. I say shouldn't, hopefully. So I am minded to support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Riley. Councillor Joe Riley.
Yeah, I'm leaving the meeting at the moment.
Leaving the meeting, okay. I'll come back to Councillor Hawkins then.
Yes, just a couple of points. One point is that we need to have these homes in the middle of our society so that everything is natural and these young people aren't in an unnatural environment. And the second thing is to Councillor Glass is, do we put barbed wire and magnificent fences round scout huts? I don't think so. Thank you.
If I may comment on that comment.
No, I'm not going back to any more. We're finishing the debate now, but I do need a proposal. If somebody can put a proposal forward, please.
I propose to accept what's on the paper.
Arthur Davies.
I'll second.
Sorry, who seconded that?
Me, David Hawkins.
Hawkins, okay, thank you. Thank you. So we'll go back to the two speakers who will have 1 minute each. So Mr. Matt Holmes, if you'd like to speak for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would just like to say two things. One, just to reinforce that this is a residential use in a residential area. And second, a couple of comments were made about how these homes are run, and I would just like to stress, as set out in your officer's report, that this home will be registered with Ofsted and managed accordingly. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Kirsten, you have 1 minute.
She's not in the meeting anymore.
She's not. Okay. In that case, members, we will go to the vote.
Chair, can we stipulate Joe's recommendation that it's just if we agree on this, it's for the 4 people.
4 people.
It's quite relevant, Councillor Hawkins.
Yeah, but I thought you'd already said it.
Right, can we just go for the vote then, please? We've got a proposal to accept the recommendation by Councillor Hawkins. No, by Councillor Davies, and seconded by Councillor Hawkins. So we're voting to grant this application. Excuse me. Excuse me, I have just lost my list of councillors. So, okay, Councillor Anne Bellows, please.
4.
Councillor Sue Benison.
4, Chairman.
Councillor Hilary Brand.
4.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
4.
Councillor Anne Corbridge.
4.
Councillor Arthur Davies.
4.
Councillor, Barry Dunning's left us. Councillor Alan Glass.
4.
Councillor David Hawkins.
4.
Councillor Kangarani.
4.
Councillor Riley. I think
He's
he left us. He left
the meeting.
Councillor Tony Ring.
4.
Councillor Beverly Thorne.
4.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Against.
And I'm 4. So that's been carried. Do you want to clarify that for me, please, Democratic Services?
I can confirm we've got 12 votes for, 1 vote against. That carries the motion to accept.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Madam Chairman, I must take my leave now. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, my friend.
Goodbye.
So,
Let's sing at this stage.
we've lost 2 more. We're still quiet, aren't we?
I hope we go quite fast because I've got an appointment.
Okay, then.
Yes, we are still correct. I can confirm.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move on to the next one. The next one on the agenda is Forward Park Lane, Milford-on-Sea, but we have got a committee update, and this is the amended recommendation is that this should be deferred. I don't know if I don't know if Vivian Baxter actually wants to say anything on this. Are you there?
I am here, yes. Sorry, I am here, yes, and yeah. I've just got a quick thing to say, and then hopefully it'll be done. Thank you, members. Good afternoon. I'm requesting that members defer consideration of this application following the late submission earlier this week of amended plans. These were as a result of discovering a previously unknown sewage easement to the southwest of the site. It is therefore proposed to amend the report to address these changes for consideration at the November committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, I'm just going to defer this unless anybody has any objection to
we still have, I think we've still got public speakers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Let me just check.
Thank you. We are moving on to the next application as Forward Park Lane has been deferred. We're moving on to page 75, application number 20/10628, Haven Marine Park. And could we please have the presentation by Judith Garrity? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Have we got any interests?
Have we got any interests? Barry Dunning's left. Anne Corbridge, do you have interests?
No.
No, it's Boulder, isn't it?
It's Boulder, yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't have any interests. Thank you, Judith, if you'd like to commence.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. This application relates to Haven Marine Park. This is a Section 73 application for the variation of condition of planning approval 18/10541 relating to Condition 3, approved plan numbers, Condition 5, landscaping, Condition 7, ecology, and Condition 8, parking. This is the Ordnance Survey Plan. The site is located on the eastern side of the Lymington River. It's had a long river frontage and is located immediately north of the side of the railway line leading to Lymington Pier. The nearest residential properties are Island Point, and the site is served by a long gravel track from Undershore Road. This is the aerial photograph of the site. The original consent was approved in May 2019. This granted full planning permission to demolish the existing buildings on the site and erect 2 buildings to comprise 11 separate units to be used as storage, office and light industrial uses. This approval also included restoration of the site of importance for nature conservation on the site. This slide shows a comparison of the extant and the proposed layouts, the top being the approved layout. The lower slide shows the changes now proposed. These include repositioning of the 6 parking spaces approved between units 2 and 3, provision of an additional 6 parking spaces to give a total of 61 on the site, relocation of the existing sink area to between units 2 and 3 with a frontage to the Lymington River. The existing sink area will be used for 13 car parking spaces. Revised landscaping to incorporate these changes. The layout of the remainder of the car parking and access will remain unchanged. No amendments are proposed to the layout of the site, scale or design of the 11 units. The principle of the development on the site has already been agreed in May 2019. Therefore, this application is only to consider the variation of conditions in relation to ecology, landscape and parking. This slide shows the site in relation to the sink and SSSIs. The planning application site is outlined in red. The existing sink on the site forms part of the Waltham Reedbeds sink. The riverland immediately adjacent to the application site forms part of the Lymington Mudflats Lymington Mud Flats sink. To the north and south of the site are SSSIs, Lymington Reed Beds and Hurst Castle and Lymington River Estuary SSSIs. This plan shows the proposed layout of the site. The current proposals are to use the area between units 2 and 3 for a new area of sink habitat. This will adjoin a strip of coastal grassland to create a compensatory habitat which would be linked to the intertidal mud flats of the Lymington River. Most of the new habitat will be native mixed scrub planting, which will create a wildflower-rich area along the entire river frontage of the site and provide a natural buffer to the edge of the Lymington mud flats. The next plan shows the existing and proposed sink areas. It's a bit difficult to see on here, but this is the existing sink area that was to be restored, and this is the new proposed sink, which runs along the frontage and between the units. There would be an increase in the sink area by over 200 square metres, from 634 square metres to 844 square metres. This is a photograph of the existing sink on the site. You can see that the land use changes have resulted in the progressive destruction of the existing sink, with infilling, use for storage of containers and boats, and an aggregate surface on the site. Ecological surveys confirm the sink is now heavily degraded and is of low conservation value. Furthermore, the sink area that remains is in isolation from the remainder of the sink to the south and east of the access road, which limits the opportunities for its restoration as reed beds. Biodiversity net gain of over 10% would be achieved on the site when considering all landscaping. In addition, a management and monitoring plan of the new established sink will be secured by a planning condition. The conclusion on this issue is that the revised proposals provide a suitable compensatory habitat that connects well to existing intertidal mudflats, improving its functionality as well as increasing the sink area. The second matter to consider is landscaping. This is a plan of the detailed landscaping on the site. The new landscaping area will be mainly located between units 2 and 3 and reflects the proposed alterations to the location of the sink within the site. These changes would result in a more cohesive natural conservation area which would link along the boundaries of the site with the Lymington River, with the potential benefits outlined above. In addition, there are benefits in terms of visual impact of the site when viewed across the river. The detailed landscaping plan provides a suitable framework for the site with tree planting included. Amended plans have been submitted to close off a second entrance shown from the access road on earlier plans, which is located where I'm showing it now. The area will now be planted with native species, including 3 Monterey pines, which are appropriate and beneficial to the overall development in visual impact terms. In terms of car parking, the proposals would increase the number of parking spaces on the site by 6, giving a total of 61 spaces. This is an over-provision on the site by 9 spaces and picks up on a concern expressed by some residents on the previous scheme. No highway objections are raised. I now got some photographs to show you of the site. This is the access to the site. This shows the access and the Island Point flats. These are the existing buildings on the site. This is the site looking towards the Lymington River, and this is the Lymington River frontage. I have included at the end of this presentation some plans of the extant elevations just for information. This is Block A, Block B, and also the ground and first floor plans of Units 1 to 5 and Units 6 to 11. The recommendation is to approve the variation subject to conditions, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, please, for Judith? Councillor Sue Bennison.
Thank you, Chairman. Could we go back to chart 92 and just compare that with the previous chart 91, because it seems to me 91 has got 4 more parking spaces than 92.
Can I just answer that, Chairman?
Please.
The plan that was submitted as part of the application is 91. Okay. The one I use for 92 is just showing the sink areas and not the parking. As you can see on there, that this doesn't include any of the parking to the side of that building. So that isn't part of the approved plan. That plan was in one of the documents that was supporting a previous application. So the 91 is the plan that you're looking to approve, if you choose to do so.
Yeah, so overall, there's an extra 6 car parking spaces on this plan as opposed to the previous plan that was granted.
That's correct, yes.
And it, just in my opinion, it looks like, although we've got extra extra open space, whatever you like to call it, between in that triangle area, we seem to have lost a bit from the top area. Overall, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, you have lost a bit here, but you've gained a bit here as well. But yes, you're correct.
One more question. You went over very quickly this second entrance or exit. Could you just explain where that was and why it's not there now?
Yes, thank you. On a previous set of plans with this application, there was an entrance shown in here from the gravel track. This was questioned with the applicant, who has now closed that potential. It wasn't shown as an entrance, but there was a potential for it. So it was in this area, but it has been now shown as a landscaped area, and it's detailed up on the landscaping plan with additional trees and planting. The reason I mentioned that was it was a point raised by the parish council, who will be speaking later.
Yes, it was something that I underlined as well. So thank you for that clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kangarani.
Okay, thank you. I understand that planning permission already been granted. You're talking about the changes already. Only, do you think, just maybe going back, any flooding issue? I could see you have got some flood defences walls on by the river. Is that need to be improved, or is not part of this planning application?
Thank you. That was all considered as part of the previous planning approval on the site, and there are conditions that are being transferred across to this consent that would cover those matters. It is in flood risk zone 3, so there were considerations around that, although it's a less vulnerable development because it doesn't include any residential use. The ground floor of the units for use for storage and parking mainly, so any extreme flood event would have less of an impact. But there is a flooding and evacuation plan requirement to be submitted, and that's a condition transferred from the previous consent. Technically speaking, that's not a matter for us to consider at this stage, because that's already been agreed as part of the previous consideration on the site.
Yeah, sure, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. There are no more questions up there that I can see, so I'll go to our first speaker, who's Mr. Mark Robinson. He is the agent. You have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As part of the approved application, there is a commitment to reinstate an area of the site to ecological value that would merit a SINC designation. Section 73 application is applying to relocate that area of the site that is to be restored for the reasons and benefits as follows. The new area has significantly better ecological potential. It will create a more unique and valuable habitat compared to the original SINC planting. It has high ecological value because of the nature. It's a transition point between marine and terrestrial habitats and can accommodate uncommon and nationally scarce plants. The location of the site also means that the river is in transition zone between fresh and saline water, and this too provides the habitat potential for uncommon native species. There is an approved strategy to actively propagate and plant the endangered local species from local seed sources. The proposals also includes a clear and long-term management plan to maintain the new area. The position naturally segregates it from the operations and general use on the site, which provides or affords it additional natural protection. The above has been developed by our ecologist Jonathan Cox in close discussion with the local authority ecologist. The officer has confirmed the scientific analysis supporting this application is robust. As an aside benefit, the opportunity to provide 6 additional car parking spaces helps address concerns, as previously mentioned, by the local neighbours. In summary, the proposal provides an ecological benefit based on DEFRA's biodiversity metric assessment method. It demonstrates it as 180% enhancement, and this strategy and the figures behind it have been fully assessed by the authority's ecologist. Hopefully you can see that within the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, please? Okay, there's nothing coming up, so we'll go to Councillor Oliver Moore.
Chairman, I'm a bit late, but I did put in an RTS.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just looking at some of the objections or the issues, and one is regarding the sink area, and it says, is an original drainage channel for surface water to pass under the access road, so needs restoring properly. Is that something in the hands of the applicant? Is that something that they're going to undertake?
Sure. Yes, there is the existing culvert underneath there, and that will be sort of like made good or reviewed as part of the works, and will be, reinstated if there are issues with it.
Okay, restored then.
Yes, it's still there at the moment. There's no intention to move it. It will be checked following the completion of the main works.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We'll now go on to our next speaker, which is Councillor Oliver Moore from Boulder Parish Council. If you'd like to go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Hi there. So Boulder Parish Council's recommendation for refusal is based on the following concerns. The proposed variation intrudes into the site of scientific importance for natural conservation area that the applicant has been requested to restore. The proposed exchange is not equitable in the view of the Parish Council and leaves the remaining SINC open to further creep from industrial activity. The existing permission creates a clear and enforceable delineation between industrial use and the SINC. BPC believes it's essential that it is maintained to prevent further damage to this area. BPC respectfully disagrees with the model outcome of the variation, resulting in net SINC increases versus reality given the size and position of the proposed sites. The variation creates 2 smaller, more vulnerable individual SINC sites and further blurs the SINC/industrial site boundaries. With the proposed alternative area sandwiched between 2 buildings, it seemed ripe for future potential misuse. Ecological assessments are based on SINC quality that has degraded as a direct result of past infringements, appearing to erode past actions. Planning guidance states that past planning history should be taken into account. There appears to be open concerns from NFDC Environmental Design as per September 21st. It is not clear if those concerns have been addressed from the publicly available material. BPC has significant concerns over the ability of the relevant authorities' ability to prevent further SINC damage with the 2 smaller sites. The current permission appears more enforceable with a single clear delineation. BPC believes the existing permission is the appropriate balance between development needs, residential concerns and SINC preservation. Overall, BPC believes this variation would have significant negative consequences for the remaining SINC and recommends refusal.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions? There's nothing coming up again that I can see. So members, we will go into debate. We are now in debate. Councillor Anne Corbridge.
Thank you, Chairman. Unsurprisingly, I know this area, and I'm minded very much to support this application on the basis that, firstly, I think it could improve the area down there, and secondly, well aware that there is very, very limited parking in that area. In fact, there's no parking until you get to the ferry. So I completely understand the need for improving that. And I think any improvement in landscaping would be welcome.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alan Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree very much with what Councillor Corbridge said. I've been to this site a couple of times trying to get my boat repaired, and at the moment it's quite a, let's say, a scruffy place, I think is the only way I can call it. But it's going to improve, obviously, by the previous planning permission, and I think this modification to increase the accessible frontage to the river is a great improvement, and I would like to see the officers backed on this one and this development accepted. Thank you.
I don't have, Councillor Benison again, please.
Yes, just very quickly, Chairman. I just wanted to say I was slightly disappointed that it looked like the new sink site wasn't quite as large as the site on the previous application, but understand that there is a need for parking and this will provide 6 extra spaces. More pleased to see that the second access has been closed off with landscaping, so I'm happy with the officer's recommendation on this one. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I will be waiting for a proposal on this one. There doesn't seem to be any more speakers.
I'll propose, Chairman, that we accept the officer's recommendation. If that helps.
Thank you. And can I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, as there's nobody else wanting to debate, we'll go back to the 2 speakers and you have a minute each. So first of all, Mr. Mark Robinson, you have a minute to speak.
I have nothing really to add other than to highlight the ecological benefit of and the variety of plants that this new area will afford.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Oliver Moore, Councillor Oliver Moore, you have a minute, please.
Thank you. Obviously, councillors have mentioned the state of the site as it is. That is a result of current and past activity on the site that has been asked to be recovered. You know, we should be judging this thing based on how it is. And sadly, without really strong enforcement, I'm very concerned that new Cincy will ultimately be a dumping ground between the 2 buildings, and we will not see the net benefit that's being put forward as assumed to occur.
Thank you very much. Members, we will now go to the vote, and the recommendation is grant subject to conditions. That has been proposed by Councillor Benison and seconded by Councillor Gorbridge. So we are voting to grant. Councillor Anne Bellows.
4.
Sue Benison.
4.
Hilary Brand.
4.
Councillor Rebecca Clark.
4.
Councillor Corbridge.
4.
Councillor Davies.
He's gone.
He's gone. Right, okay. And Councillor Glass.
4.
Councillor Hawkins.
He's left.
Has he? Oh gosh. Councillor Kangarani.
4.
Councillor Riley's left, hasn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
Councillor Tony Ring.
4.
Councillor Beverly Thorne.
4.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
He's left.
He's left, okay. And I'm 4, so that's unanimous. Can you confirm that for me, please?
Yes, it's unanimous. We've had 10 votes. I hadn't realised that Councillor Davis has left, though. He looks like he's still in the meeting.
Can you hear us, Councillor Davies?
He must have left.
He must have left, okay. So how many more have left? Who have we got here now? Are we still quorum?
Do you want to adjourn the meeting for a moment?
Yes, can we adjourn, please, for 5 minutes? Members, we are commencing the meeting again, and we're going back to application 20/10433. The recommendation is to defer, but we do have a speaker that wishes to speak. Democratic Services, can you confirm which speaker that is?
We've got Mrs. Chown.
Can we go ahead then with Mrs. Chown, please? If she's there, you have 3 minutes to speak.
I think we're getting Mrs. Chown on the phone. Dean's doing that now.
Okay, fine. And that's the only one that we have, is it? The only speaker?
Chairman, yes. So Matt Holmes was fine with the deferment.
Right, okay, fine. Have we got a connection yet?
Hello?
Hello.
I'm terribly sorry. There has been a mix-up on me ringing in. You can hear me, obviously.
Okay, you have 3 minutes if you'd like to speak now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Jen Chown. I live at 2 Dainstream Close, Milford, which is a direct neighbour to the become the immediate neighbour to plot 2 with the side of the proposed house facing directly into our garden. We were extremely surprised and shocked to receive a planning application notice in April 2020 during lockdown to seek permission to build 2 large houses which had been previously rejected by the planning department. This application started off identical to a planning application that was submitted in June 2019, reference 19-10-787. Whilst the applicant has made changes to this application, we believe they are still looking to overdevelop this site. We agree with the Parish Council's view of this development, but request the committee also consider the following. The planning officer's comments within the report is correct on the limited impact on the conservation area, but we feel the consideration on the impact to the properties in Dainstream Close has been omitted. The close drops in level from Lucerne Road, finishing with the diminutive bungalows at the end. The architect's drawings SE01D and SL01C are totally inaccurate. They show both open spaces between our property and the development, a driveway in our rear garden, as well as our building being shaded to suggest it is in the distance. Our new garage adjacent to our house, approved by this authority in January, is now complete, and the driveway to the rear of our property is now a garden. This is now the 4th time plans that have been incorrectly submitted regarding our property, to which this authority has been notified but failed to have corrected, and this has led your planning officer's report to state that the changes to the plots has resulted in a 2-storey flank wall closest to number 2 Dainstream Close, giving the siting of the proposed dwelling to the northwest of the property. It is not considered that the proposal would give rise to unacceptable living conditions. It is understood that the adjacent property has a drive running immediately to the east of the boundary, and coupled with the vegetation which will be maintained, this change would not have a harmful impact. The impact is that the scale of the new development has immediate impact on our amenity space and not to a driveway, as the report and drawings elude. We are not being justly represented by the architect's plans. The Milford Village Design Statement, page 13, states, scale relates not only to a building, but also space between it and its neighbours. New buildings should have the same impression of space around them as existing ones. This scheme fails by not understanding the effect of both the size and position of this current proposal. I have felt somewhat disadvantaged speaking to you in this media due to the present circumstances, but would like to thank Dean Brunton for his help and support, which has allowed me to deliver my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We don't have any other speakers. How do we go ahead with this one? Are we still going to allow questions or just defer it?
Could I just maybe clarify the point in terms of the report? I put the report on the planning committee, and in light of the change in information that took place at the end of last week, I am now recommending to the planning committee that this report is withdrawn because it isn't now reflective of the additional information, and therefore I'm not making a recommendation to the planning committee.
Okay, fine. So that's just withdrawn then. Thank you, members. And thank you, Jen Chow, for your speaking there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to Runbridge Street. This is application 20/10694, pages 107 to 120 on the agenda. And if we can go, please. Do we have any interest first?
I think it is in my area and the parish council, and I'm not part of the planning committee, therefore have no interest in that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just check that we've got Arthur Davis present?
Okay, we are back in the meeting, but we've had to come to the decision to adjourn. We can't carry on with the agenda because we're no longer quorum. We will add these two to our next meeting, and we will have to make a decision, I think, quite soon as to whether we need to go back to fortnightly meetings or whether we can continue with the one a month. But I'm very sorry. I apologise to those speakers that are waiting to speak on the agenda item, which was Runbridge Street, and all those that are waiting to speak on the land at Merlin, Lymington Road. I'm very sorry for this, but we can't continue if we're not quorum. We just can't make those decisions. So thank you everybody for attending. It has been quite a long one, and thank you, and we'll see you all again soon. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.